We are charged to protect these kids.
Go! I'm a police officer for North Minneapolis and coach for North High School. Go! These kids don't trust cops.
It's definitely a difficult time right now.
Kind of weird, but I'm building bonds with police.
The violence is nonstop. You can hear the gunshots. When them lights flicker at 7 o'clock, you ain't hearing none of that.
Man, that card, that's an old school card right there. That card lit.
Welcome to our nation's capital. We are here in Washington, D.C.
Nothing but high ratio knockout hitters.
Demetrius Boo Boo Andre. What are you looking to demonstrate on Saturday?
A beatdown. Perform and let people know it's me again. I'm here.
Demanda Nicholson.
My confidence is through the roof. It's my time.
Rashidi Ellis.
Back in the ring, back in the groove. He's a tough fighter, but that don't mean nothing to me.
Roy Manavilla.
I believe that I can be a world champion, and I'm ready for anything that comes my way.
Jaron Boots Ennis.
I can't wait to shine and put on a beautiful show. Get this knockout.
Karen Chukassian.
I will bring this title to Ukraine.
The undefeated world champion, Gervonta Davis.
Walk in like a boss where my money at.
Be the stepping stone to what I want to do.
We're going to be ready.
Héctor Luis García.
I'm going to give my blood, sweat, and tears until the very last minute of the very last round. I can guarantee you that.
Gotta wait and see, man. Gotta wait and see.
From the land of half smokes, mumbo sauce, Chuck Brown, and trouble funk, it's time for the Gervonta Davis versus Hector Garcia press conference. Hello, everyone. We are in Washington, D.C., my hometown. Finally got a home game.
I didn't know any of those things you mentioned off the top, right?
Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell here. We're going to be your digital stream host. We'll throw it to Brian Campbell here. Excuse me, Brian Custer in just a moment. But BC, we are here for the Gervonta Davis and Hector Garcia press conference. I was here for the announcement of it. We are now just days away from the event, which is about that way at the Capital One Arena. It'll be on pay-per-view. BC, let's set up this main event here. We're going to hear from a lot of the competitors today, but for the folks watching at home, when you think about Davis versus Garcia, and of course, we will get to some of the issues surrounding Gervonta Davis and the controversy, but first things first, on the fights, how are you sizing this whole thing up?
It's getting more exciting by the day from the standpoint of this pay-per-view main event Saturday night. Unbeaten fighter versus unbeaten fighter, but the stakes in a lot of ways are very different for both guys coming in. For Gervonta Davis, we're talking about one of the biggest stars in this entire sport. Fight-changing power, pound-for-pound level boxing ability, has floated around different weight classes. But for him, separate from the very large distractions outside the ring, a lot of those self-imposed, this is the build to something potentially bigger with a different Garcia. Ryan Garcia in a potential April showdown between young unbeaten fighters. The problem is nobody told Héctor Luis Garcia, who had a breakout 2021, is a world champion at 130 pounds, and on Saturday will move up 5 pounds to chase his own level of greatness. Luke Thomas, Héctor Luis Garcia is nobody's stay busy opponent, easy test along the way. You can do no further than interview or watch footage of this guy, hear his backstory to know the native of the Dominican Republic is coming on, and we should have what is a very competitive fight on paper come Saturday night.
I spoke to Tank Davis about 6 weeks ago when we were here for the press conference to announce today's fights, and I asked him why he was taking a fight this difficult. You didn't have to do it, right? I mean, you could just make the Ryan Garcia fight for April and then hold on until then. In fact, Ryan Garcia is not taking another fight between now and then, at least if you believe the media reports. And his answer was, I was tired of people chirping about my resume. I was tired of people chirping that I take easy fights. So which is it? Do I take too many easy fights or do I take too many hard fights? BC, I think I agree with you. Hector Garcia, very underrated in this contest. We'll talk more about it. Also, let's set up very quickly with the time we have remaining for the opening of this broadcast. Jaron Boots Ennis. What more can I say? Very quickly, we have just a minute here. Set up his fight for us against Carnage Case.
A loaded pay-per-view main card to offer on Saturday night. But when you're talking about Jaron Boots Ennis, the unbeaten welterweight, you're not just talking about the future of the 147-pound division, the money division of the sport. You're talking about potentially the future of the sport from a pound-for-pound landscape. The only problem is he's got to prove that on the elite level. He's been trying. He's been knocking on the door. Saturday is another step forward. Karan Chukadian, the interim IBF welterweight title, he wins that. there's no way the champions, the elites, are ducking him any longer.
And, of course, in the main event, it'll be for Gervonta Davis's WBA secondary lightweight title. But for right now, let's go to the stage with Showtime's Brian Custer.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the nation's capital. This is the official press conference for the undercard fights for Davis versus Garcia, which comes your way Saturday, January 7th on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm Brian Custer. I'm the host of Showtime Championship Boxing. And this coming Saturday, well, Showtime Boxing is back here in the DMV area. You know, it's been 6 years since we last did a show here, but we're looking forward to it and looking forward to going back to that venue, Capital One Arena. Do you know, back 24 years ago, 1999, that was the first time that venue held a boxing show, and it was brought to you by Showtime Championship Boxing. And that night, we brought you 3 world title fights. Well, this coming Saturday, we got a main event, another world title fight, and it is filled with meaningful fights here on the undercard. In fact, the co-main features a young man who many have called the future of the welterweight division, taking on another man who's making his U.S. debut, and they're fighting for an interim title. We have a future, or I should say, a former world champion at 154 pounds, at 160 pounds. He's making his return to Showtime as well, and he's taking on a guy who's been on a winning streak of his own, knocking guys out. And, of course, we got another welterweight fight, another young man, unbeaten, go by the name of Speedy. Says he's one of the most skilled welterweights in the game. And he's got his hands full with a power puncher who has won 19 straight. It's going to be one heck of a night. Those are the undercard fights. And, of course, the broadcast will begin with the two-weight division champ starting his campaign at 168 pounds. And he's taking on a man in Damon Nicholson, who's knocked out his last 3 opponents. Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade is back on Showtime. He starts the night off. And then we go to welterweights. Combine these two fighters, 50 victories, just 1 loss. The unbeaten, highly skilled, speedy Rashidi Ellis taking on Royman Villa. And then we get to the co-main. And again, the future of the welterweight division, he's got one of the highest knockout percentages in the sport of boxing. He's unbeaten as well. Jerron Boots Ennis takes on a man making his U.S. debut, riding a 19-fight win streak in Karen Chukhashian. This event on Saturday is being brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions. It's being promoted by GTD Promotions, TGB Promotions as well. The Ennis Chukhashian fight is also being brought to you by D&D Boxing as well. I know what you're thinking. I got to get tickets. I'm just going to be honest with you. They're in a limited capacity right now. They are going fast. Since we're in D.C., they're going faster than Kevin McCarthy's support right now. I'm telling you, you need to get your tickets and get them now because we're expecting another large crowd at Capital One. You can get those tickets at Ticketmaster.com. You can also get them at CapitalOneArena.com as well. I'm going to talk to these fighters about their fight. Before we get to that, though, let me bring to the podium the chair of the District of Columbia's Combat Sports Commission, Mr. Andrew Huff.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Andrew Huff. I am the chairman of the District of Columbia Combat Sports Commission. On behalf of our mayor, Muriel Bowser, I'd like to welcome everyone to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the greatest city in the world. We're glad you're with us today. I'd like to take a quick moment to recognize my fellow commissioners who may or may not be present this afternoon. Kimberly Lockett, Dr. Roger Mitchell, Christopher Jenkins, Sean Townsend, and Deputy Commissioner Skip Brown. We're looking forward to an excellent card full of local fighters from the DMV. We also look forward, of course, to good, clean bouts in compliance with the Commission's guidelines. We hope that while you're in town, you'll enjoy the richness of the nation's capital, our restaurants, our outdoor spaces, our cultural venues, and see for yourself why Washington, D.C. is, in fact, the greatest city in the world. In closing, I'd like to thank Tom Brown, as well as the entire teams at both Premier Boxing Champions and Showtime for bringing an incredible fight night to the District of Columbia, and we certainly look forward to the next big event. Thank you, good luck to the fighters, and we'll see you Saturday.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, let's talk about the fights. Let's start with the first fight of the night. Comes at 168 pounds. It's a new weight division for Demetrius Andrade. Man's been a champion at 154. He's been a champion at 160. Now he starts his campaign at 168, and he's taking on Damon Nicholson. Damon Nicholson, you might know, is a guy who went the distance with Edgar Berlanga. When Berlanga was at one point knocking everybody out, Nicholson went the distance with him. And all he's done since then has won 3 straight, all knockout victories. Boo Boo, let me start with you. 168, new division. Give me your thoughts on fighting on that new division and coming back to Showtime.
Yeah, man. Yo, mic check. Yeah, so 168, man. Just bringing more talent to the division. It's going to be a stacked division. It's going to be another division. Be like, wow, Andre's in there. It's me again. But yeah, it's great to be here, PBC, Showtime. It's just been a long time coming for this to happen. Now I'm here. I'm going to perform and give the people what they've been looking for, and looking for the future fights.
And tell me why 168? You know, what was it about 160 that you said, okay, it's time to move to 168?
Yeah, body genetics, man, you know. You know, I mean, damn. But nah, I mean, I'm just growing in size, and, you know, I just can't make 160 anymore. I did it. I'm proud of myself, 154 champion, 160 champion. Now I want to move on to be, you know, champion all the middleweight division. So this is the goal.
A lot of eyes are going to be watching you. You talk about at 168, some big names there. There's Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, obviously Canelo's there. We hear maybe Jamal Charlo's going to be there.
I hope so.
What's the message? Because they'll all be watching on Saturday. What's the message you're trying to send to this division?
I mean, the message is letting the best fighters fight each other. That's it. There's no more running, no more excuses about network stuff. There's no more politics. There's nothing in the way anymore. So I'm here. So the message is it's time for us to get in the ring and make this shit happen.
Damon, Saturday is time for you to make something happen. You got a guy that's coming into a new division. He wants to make a splash because he wants these big fights. Tell us what Damon Nicholson's goal is coming into Saturday.
My goal is just to dominate and win whatever way possible. I go into every fight, Mr. Bryan, looking for the knockout, the KO. I don't care if it's the first or last round. And it's the same with this fight, you know? So I'm going in there and shooting, like I said yesterday, I'm shooting for the moon. It's time. It's my time. You know, he's been in the game a long time. So, hey, it's a new era.
Boo Boo's been known as, by some, an awkward fighter. How do you become the first guy to crack that puzzle and defeat him?
Applying pressure. Pressure busts pipes.
Does this fight go the distance?
No, sir.
I guess Damon's going down early. DeMar goes down. DeMar goes down.
You heard that. I mean, listen, he realizes too, he's got a big opportunity to stop you and to make a big splash.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's the words that come out of everybody's mouth in the game. At the end of the day, man, I prove it every single time I step into the ring. So it's all good, man. Words are cheap when it comes over here. I mean, listen, my plan is to do what I always do, and that's win.
Because
humble beast, he's humble. You know what I mean? I can't be humble right now. There's no time for humbleness, man. The whole entire world is looking down on me. I'm a tune-up. But this is the first fight that I've been in where I've been 100% healthy. My skills is going to come out and they're going to see. You know, you guys are going to see. You know, I'm not trying to cut anybody off or nothing like that. You know, but you all will see. You know.
Yeah, bring the fight.
7th,
bring the fight so we can put a fight together.
Career starts. You know, he's going to do the talking. I'm not worried about that. You know, my hands do it for me. You know.
Yeah, same here. Over and over. Bring the fight, bro. Bring the pressure. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm prepared for whatever. Don't matter.
He's already said this fight's ended in a knockout. Damon, he's made it known he wants big fights in Charlo after this. What about Damon Nicholson?
He hasn't get through me yet. He haven't fought me yet. What about Charlo? He hasn't fought Damon Nicholson yet. Forget Charlo. Sorry, I'm not talking to you like that, but I'm just saying, you know, this entire little campaign, whatever they want to say, they've been talking about him fighting Charlo, Benavidez, and nothing like that. Like he's not fighting me first. Like he hasn't even stepped in the ring with me yet. You know, so I mean, it's kind of built up anger that I got. Not anger, but frustration that I've been getting. You know, but it's really disrespectful, you know, to speak down on a man like that. You know, this is boxing. You know what I mean? You're never supposed to overlook the next man. You know what I mean? And they've been, excuse my language, they've been shitting on me this entire time. You know, and I don't appreciate it. So yeah, I mean what I say. You know, he's saying words is words. Nah, fuck that. I mean exactly what I say. You know, and that's just what it is.
Let's go, D-Mon. Hey. Let's go, D-Mon. That's what I'm talking about, baby boy.
Demetrius, you got a fight on your hands Saturday,
Let's go,
bro.
baby boy.
Yeah.
Let's make this shit happen.
Hey.
I love it.
That's how we're going to start the night off.
Oh, yeah, now.
By the way, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time. 168, two guys who can crack, and both saying it's going to be a stoppage. Okay, so now we get to the next fight. We get welterweights. This is going to be real good because you've got Speedy Ellis, unbeaten, taking on Roman Villa. Villa's on this 19-fight win streak, power puncher. Rashidi, I guess there are going to be a lot of eyes on you. It's been a while since we've seen you. You haven't been as active as you would like to be. So given that it is pay-per-view, a big audience, tell us what we should expect. What are you trying to prove and put out there come Saturday?
Well, me being out there right now, it has no problem with it because I'm always in the gym, staying ready. But, you know, I'm going to make a statement, show that I'm the big dog at the 147th division.
Roman? Martin Bader, by the way, will do the translation. You got a guy who's extremely quick. He's got some pop. And you just heard him. He said he's looking to show that he's the big dog at welterweight at 147. Talk to us about your plans for Saturday night for Rashidi Ellis.
Bueno, Roman, tenés un oponente que es potente, que además tiene fuerza y acaba de decir que quiere demostrar que él es el oponente a vencer en las 147 libras. Pero, ¿qué tenés que decir vos al respecto como rival y con tus propias aspiraciones?
Bueno, primeramente quiero darle gracias al Señor por esta oportunidad, porque Él hace todo posible y si me pongo a hablar está de más. Yo le voy a demostrar a todo el mundo aquí el sábado que yo vengo a pelear. Vengo a darle un espectáculo a la gente, un show y nada, no tengo más nada que decir. esperando el día de la pelea para demostrar que por qué estoy aquí, pues.
Look, talk is cheap. Whatever that he wants to say, he's entitled to it, but I know what I'm all about. I'm all about coming here to do my job, to give the fans the show that they want to see, and also I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to have the opportunity to be here. So, like I said, talk is cheap, and the action is about to be seen in the ring on Saturday night.
Roman, basically everybody you fought, you've knocked out. Do you think Rashidi Ellis will be able to take your power Saturday night?
Bueno, básicamente casi todas tus peleas han terminado en knockouts. ¿Crees que Ellis va a poder soportar tu poder y va a llegar a la campana final o esto termina en un knockout?
Bueno, yo pienso que el que sabe las cosas, el que sabe lo que va a pasar, porque el que conoce el futuro es Dios. Yo no puedo decir lo voy a noquear en tal round, voy a hacer esto, no. Yo dejo todo en las manos del Señor, Él sabe lo que va a pasar y que se haga la voluntad del Señor.
I'm no fortune teller, so I'm just going to leave it in the hands of God. God is the only one that really knows what's about to happen on Saturday night. So I'm just going to leave it in my hands. What I'm going to do on Saturday night, leave it in the hands of God, and then let it be what it may.
Speedy, you were quoted as saying you see yourself right now as the future of the welterweight division. That's kind of a moniker that Jerron Boots has had for a while. There can only be one future. Will we find out who's the real future of the welterweight division, I guess, on Saturday?
Yeah, definitely. We won't see that.
And who is it?
Me. You guys talking like he got 5 arms, just like just a fight just like me. So we want to see who's the top dog. And another back to Villa, like he be coming here talking nice, but him and his team talking crazy. Every time when he in the media, he act like he's sweet and everything, godly, but he be talking crazy. So at first I was gonna give him a casual ass whooping, but now I'm beating his ass.
And if I'm not mistaken, did a member of his team contact you through social media?
Still. My phone probably ringing right now.
And could you enlighten the people? What did they say?
She's talking like he's gonna knock me out. He's gonna be the worst ass woman to take in my life. And probably some of them will probably be here, like where they at.
And what I guess is your message to them?
I'm gonna beat his ass.
Roman, he says members of your team DM'd him that you were gonna knock him out, and so he says he's gonna beat your ass.
Bueno, acá Roman, Rashidi está acusando, digamos, a miembros de tu equipo de haberle mandado un mensaje privado vía Twitter en el que dicen que vos lo vas a noquear, o básicamente lo estaban tratando de intimidar un poquito, ¿no? Y ahora él dice que él te va a romper el, ya sabes.
No poquito.
Un poquito.
Bueno, ayer tuve un problema por eso. Los entrenadores de Rashidi, a mi mujer, a mi esposa, a mi hija y a mí nos dijeron un poco de cosas, groserías. Sin embargo, así nosotros nos quedamos callados. Yo no envío a nadie a que le envíe nada a nadie. Ni he visto sus peleas, no me interesa ver ni las peleas de él, no me impresiona, ni veo los entrenamientos, ni sé cómo se llama Rashidi. Me di de cuenta que eran los entrenadores porque me dijeron que eran los entrenadores, pero no me preocupa, varón. Entonces, yo no puedo hablar ni estar diciendo tantas cosas porque dice el Señor que está allá, que es el Señor, el papá de los papás, que dice que el que se humilla, Dios lo enaltece, y el que se enaltece, Dios lo humilla. ¿Sí me entendéis? Entonces veremos a ver si esa sonrisita le queda después de la pelea.
There you go. Now he's talking shit. Okay, let's get it.
Okay, so listen, I wasn't aware of what happened, and what he says, I don't really care about, because Rashidi also was, like he and his team, they were mean to me and my family. They said some things that I didn't like at all. So I'm not about to be throwing stones out there, and I want to stay humble. But at the same time, I want to see if that smirk that Rashidi has on his face right now remains after the fight on Saturday night.
Savage with a smile, baby.
All right. That's the second fight. By the way, Rashidi, could you see if you get a victory, could you see an Ellis-Ennis fight where we could determine who's going to be the future of the welterweight division?
Let's go. Everybody know what I want. Just if they're paying, I'm playing.
Let's go.
We already had this supposed to be set up for this fight.
Let's go.
Niggas, who wasn't paying? Come on, man.
I don't gotta say nothing.
You guys talking like double the price like it was a lot. Like, come on, bro. We could have got it tonight. Like, come on, don't play with me.
Let's go.
We can go now. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Don't
So that's the second fight.
You ain't like that. Don't play with me. Like
But you got Villa first.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it. You ain't like that. Don't play like that.
Let's get to the co-main.
Don't play like that with me, bro. You're fucked up.
Sharon Boots-Ennis.
Yeah. Look at Alright, I'm gonna keep it cool.
He on Bart, yo.
Corinne Trukashin.
He too moody. He too moody.
All right, Boots.
I got him already.
Let's talk about this fight here because this is for an interim title, right? Yeah. Talk about not only being on this platform, being on pay-per-view finally, but the importance because it is an interim title, and all of a sudden you become a mandatory for the unified champ of the welterweight division.
Yeah, it's definitely it's gonna put me, right there in line, for Earl Spence, and the rest of those guys that's up there. So, this is definitely a perfect mark, to make my statement, and I can't wait.
Now you got a guy who's been winning, and then you got a guy fighting before you who's looking to put on performance because as you just heard, he wants you bad. Are you looking to send a message not only to the division, but to that young man as well?
I'm looking to make a statement towards, the whole world. I ain't worried about him or my opponent. I'm just going out there to do me, have fun, put on a show, and get this explosive knockout, and then we can see what's next,
Corinne? You're taking on Boots-Ennis. He hasn't gone past 6 rounds. He's been knocking out basically everybody he's fought. Tell us why you're the guy that's going to put an end to all of that streak and give him his first loss.
Карен, ваш противник не згубив жодної гри, жодного бою. Як ви думаєте, так зробити, так організувати бій, щоб перший раз він програв?
Ми пройшли дуже гарну підготовку, об'їздили багато країн, мали багато гарних спарингів. Ми добре готувалися, у нас є геймплан, тому я думаю, у нас є все для того, щоб перемогти. Джарон дуже крутий супротивник, але ми також не просто хтось з вулиці. Ми готувалися до цього бою.
Jaron is a very serious fighter, but we were training, we were preparing ourselves pretty good. We traveled a lot of countries. We had a lot of sparring fights. So we have our tactics, we have our strategy. So we believe that we are ready to fight and win.
Corinne, you are making your U.S. debut. What is Gervonta and the U.S. boxing public going to find out about you on Saturday that we didn't know?
Карен, це ваш дебют у Сполучених Штатах, очевидно. І що ви думаєте, ви можете показати для публіки американської, яка цікавиться боксом? Як вони можуть вас пізнати?
Перш за все, це мій шанс показати себе американській публіці, тому що всі знають, що справжній бокс саме у Сполучених Штатах.
It is my chance to show myself to the American public because everybody knows the real box is in the United States.
І тому я зроблю все можливе, аби порадувати американських і світових вболівальників боксу.
Then I will do all my best to provide the pleasure and fun to all the American publics and all over the world.
Thank you, Dana. Boots, haven't gone past 6. Will this fight go past 6?
Iron Mike Tyson. So, you know, I mean, like I always say, though, you know, I don't go in there looking for a knock. I go in there, you know, to have fun, you know, and establish my jab and put on the show for the fans. But if I see that opening, I'm definitely taking it. So, you know, I ain't afraid to, you know, get him out of here early. You know, y'all know my slogan, I'm in and out like a robbery.
And you've talked about Iron Mike Tyson. You've been watching a lot of Mike Tyson film lately.
Yeah.
And so will we see some Boots, Iron Mike Tyson type stuff on Saturday?
I mean, yeah, it's going to be with my own twist, though. You know, it's going to be me in there doing a few things that I seen that Mike Tyson do. You know, it's going to be a fun night, man. I just can't wait. I'm ready to get this win, this victory, you know, and be explosive with it, you know, and show the world, you know. I can't wait.
And we'll wrap it up with this because I guess what's the message then for everybody who's going to be watching you on pay-per-view? And for Mr. Rashidi Ellis, who, as he just said, he is fiending to get into the ring with you.
Cat. But my message is to the whole world, you know, just to continue to keep watching me grow, progress, you know, get better and better, you know, and don't miss this knockout on Saturday night. I can't wait to have fun and put on for DC. Shout out to DC, Showtime, my team, you know, the whole Philly gonna be in the building, you know, Mr. Espinoza, shout out to Mr. Espinoza, shout out to you, you know, I can't wait, man, I'm ready. Shout out to PPV, let's get it.
And the message to Rashidi Ellis?
All right, we'll do it after we do it.
I love it. So there you have it. That is the co-main of the night. 3 fights on this undercard, on this pay-per-view, loaded with talent, with guys who are looking to, as you just heard, become stars and send a message to their divisions. All right, guys, let's get some face-offs here, and let's start with the first fight of the night. It's me again, and Damon.
All right, guys, here we go for the cameras. All right, guys, turn out. Come on, guys, let's turn out. Come on, guys. Let's save some for tomorrow. Here we go. Demetrius, Damon, come on, guys.
Cameras in the back, guys.
Don't scare me. Right
Come on,
here we go.
Right here first, please. Down in front together. TVs in the back, please.
I know. Rashidi. Roman Villa and Rashidi Ellis.
All right, guys. Here we go, guys. Let's turn for the cameras. Right here together, down in front.
Karen Chukashin, Jerron Boots Ennis.
All right, guys. Here we go. Let's turn for the cameras, guys. Jerron, Karen, come on, guys. Let's turn for the cameras, guys. Come on. Boots. Karen. Here we go. Come on, guys. Let's turn out.
Turn. All right. Yeah.
Come on, guys. Let's turn.
Turn. All right. There you go. There we go. All right. There we go.
Right here in front first, guys. Right here in front together. TV's in the back, guys.
Hey, right there, everybody. Let's get the full card. Let's get all the fighters to come on up.
All together once you're down in front, guys, please. Everyone together.
All right, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell here in Washington, D.C. You can see this is the arrangement of undercard fighters, BC.
This is the pay-per-view main card supporting the main event of Gervonta Tank Davis and Hector Luis Garcia.
Everyone but the main event.
You want to talk about good matchups, important fights for young fighters looking to make statements.
So this is the undercard, folks. Again,
I want to talk about a little bit of the acrimony between the two of them as it broke out.
Time from Capital One Arena here in Washington, D.C. In just a few moments, we'll have the main event fighters come up, and we'll start the main event press conference.
All right, there we are. I think Brian Custer is done now. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, we are here in Washington, D.C. That was the undercard press conference. We are waiting for Tank Davis. We are waiting for Hector Luis Garcia. They will move to the dais here eventually. I'm told Tank is on the way. But in the meantime, BC, let's react to what we just saw. I have to tell you, Rashidi Ellis, he had a lot to say, did he not?
Well, Speedy Rashidi, as they call him, has always been a young, exciting fighter, fast hands, as the nickname would indicate, but somebody who has wanted the smoke, has that unbeaten record, has had some promotional difficulties, which sidelined him for a bit. But this is potentially his breaking out party back into sort of the elite mold, and you saw some of the trash talk back and forth with Boots Ennis, who that was a fight that was somewhat rumored heading into this card. Could that be a future matchup? You saw the interest of both of them, but it shows you exciting bouts on paper, and I think the volatility that we saw on stage should lead into what we see come Saturday night on Showtime pay-per-view.
All right, speaking of that volatility, the gentleman who's going to be opening the pay-per-view main card is sitting to my right. You might know him as Boo Boo. He will be taking on Damon Nicholson. You can catch that on Showtime pay-per-view. Hi, Demetrius Andrade. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, how does it feel? You're finally you're in the PBC family, and you got your first big fight. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. You know, ready to rumble, ready to display my skill and give Damon a beating for all that shit he was talking.
Now, I saw the face-off. What'd you say to him?
No, I said keep that same energy. You know, you talking that stuff, man. Bring it into the fight because that's what I'm looking forward for.
He was really reacting to it like he does. Did you get the sense that I'm not saying whether you think it's true, but whether he sounds like he feels like he's overlooked and he's got like a little of a certain energy about it, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's great for me because I like that type of fight, that spark, because it's just going to get me going as well. So, you know, I don't have to really like talk the talk as far as talking shit. I'm going to speak facts and also put that into the ring and, you know, give him a beat down.
Well, we understand his stance of saying, hey, let's not talk about Demetrius Andrade against Charlo, Canelo, Morrell, Benavidez, playing all of these big names here at 168 in and out of the PBC bubble until you get through him. But it has taken you, as the real boxing fans know, a long journey to kind of get in a spot where you have a little bit more freedom of movement, access to more opponents. You played the boxing politrick game the best you could in various parts of your career to get you here, but you're 34 now, still time to do big business. How hard has it been to navigate those choppy waters where you've been calling out big names? I've been interviewing you since the beginning. It's never left you, that willingness to want all the smoke. I think now you're about to get it.
No, I hope so. That's what I'm here for. You know, like you said, I made decisions, went through different obstacles and, different networks. And I know that right here, Showtime always puts on the great fights. And there's great fighters in this division at 168 pounds. And so me being added to that is just going to make it bigger and brighter. And so I can't wait. You know, but yeah, Damon Nicholson is in the way in a sense, but ain't nobody talking about Damon Nicholson and Charlo. They talk about Demetrius and Charlo. So my job is go in there, beat him down, let him know this is why I want these fights.
Well, Boo Boo Andrade representing New England, so you can have a nice DC party all onto your own here, but us New England boys know how to get down. Look, you won a world title at 154 pounds at middleweight, now moving up to 68. Why now in terms of the move up? Is it more about the landscape and the opportunities available to you?
Yeah, definitely the landscape. Everything's about that in this game. 54, 60, now 68. There's nothing at 60 for me that nobody wants to get in the ring over there at the zone. You know, I tried the Triple G route, Mungia route. I tried all that route. Didn't work. Now moving up to 168, you got Plant, David Benavidez, Charlo's going to move up. A whole broad different characters that I think that's willing to and able to get in the ring with me that they're going to feel like they're bigger and better. So I think
it's just the right timing of the sport.
Well, you're obviously frustrated with how the last 5-10 years have gone. You came up for some big fights and you won those, but it's been hard to get them consistently. How hard is it to maintain that level? Because you've always been one of those high-risk guys to get in the ring with, which is maybe why you've been avoided. How have you been able to stay sharp this entire way?
I mean, it's God-gifted talent and abilities, I mean, I'm disciplined. I got a family to feed, and I can't not let, that not happen by, being frustrated. Everybody gets frustrated in this world, so I can't just not let, what I have to do prevail because of that. So I'm going to go in there, do what I've been doing, and that's take care of business.
How about the sartorial spirit of this man right here?
I know. Can you tell me what kind of garment is this?
Yeah, so this is my boy Troy Griffin that I work with. He's my tailor. Yeah, for sure. We come up with some good ideas, and I'm stylish. What can I say? You know what I mean?
All right. There's a lot of firsts here, right? You're with PBC, 168, Showtime pay-per-view. I know you feel pressure in the sense that you want to perform well to set up these other opportunities. But at 168 specifically, do you feel like you have to show a certain level of physicality here? Like, what do you have to show in terms of this new division?
Nah, I mean, it's just you'll see it in the ring. Once I get in the ring and you guys see what it is, that's what you're gonna get. That's what you're gonna see. So that's what I'm gonna feel. Once I feel what physicalities that I need, that's either putting on more weight, muscle, should I say, or physically pushing people around and having the power. We're all going to find out Saturday. This is a bigger division for me, and I'm going to go in there and put my skills and talent and all my hard work to the play.
Do you feel comfortable at 168? Like, what are the athletic differences between that and 160 for you?
It's just pretty much being in the ring 100%. Me hydrated, then me depleting myself and not being 100% the next day. And being able to do what I've been doing for a long time. But, as we get older, we get wiser. We're not going to keep struggling. And then, I get down to 160 and I have an off night, or I'm not really hydrated to, 100%, 75%. And I lose. Like, why take that risk? That's not the risk that we want to take.
What do you make of Damon Nicholson, and have you watched tape on him? Like, what are you up against on Saturday night with him?
No, I mean, I would hope I'm against somebody that sees this opportunity as, better his situation, also bringing his A game to this platform to come Saturday, January 7th. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going against somebody that says he's not humble. It's time to be a beast.
Your name added to this division is very interesting, and we can name all those names and get super excited. And Canelo Alvarez, still the undisputed champion. David Morrell's got a secondary title. We're going to see Benavidez versus Plant coming up in a few months, which is basically a title fight there between two former champions. What's the matchup that you covet the most in this division that you feel like will test you the most, but will allow you to raise your game to that A+ level and maybe unload it all for the first time, because you're undefeated and you've been able to control the majority of the opponents you've been in there against?
Yeah, for sure. I think Plant, I think David Benavidez for sure. I haven't looked into the David Monroe kid, but I know he does have a belt, and that's something that, that if it sparks interest and something that we need to do, yeah, of course, I'm going to look into that. But I think for me to get to that situation, I think Charlo needs to step up. We make that fight happen. I think we're going to both bring our A game, and that's what's going to put us to that level where, who's the best?
Well, you've been linked with both Charlo brothers at various points in your career. Is there a lingering beef there, or is it more competitive, like we're going to be in the same weight class? Let's match
definitely lingering beef also, and of course we're in the same weight class. Why not make it happen? You're undefeated, I'm undefeated. It's been history. It's already been a build-up. Now we put the job behind the machine, and everybody does their job as far as putting the fight together. I mean, it's going to be one of the best fights to be made.
All right, very quickly, prediction for Caleb Plant and David Benavidez.
I think it goes the distance.
Who wins?
I think it goes the distance.
All right. Well, we got some other guests we have to bring up on stage. We appreciate your time, Demetrius Andrade. Cannot wait to see your fight again. Opening the pay-per-view main card, Demetrius Andrade. Big opportunity for you. New weight class,
early.
New clothes, new everything.
He's got the nails painted. I love it. I love it.
For your time. Really appreciate you.
Boo Boo is
thank
here.
You guys.
Okay, so let's reset here for just a second. Demetrius Andrade, as you saw, is going to be on the Showtime pay-per-view main card, where we got two other gentlemen who are going to be on the prelim card, which, by the way, you and I will be calling from the Capital One Arena just blocks away from here. Two gentlemen who, what do you want to say, the future of boxing?
In a lot of ways.
Boxing?
You can catch these fights, of course, Saturday night before the start of the pay-per-view main card. It'll be on the Showtime Sports YouTube channel. But we're talking about a big puncher, in the rising unbeaten Brandon Lee. And we're talking about, 20 years old? They call him White Magic, Vito Melnecki Jr., who no stranger to headlining cards on national television on Christmas Day and continue to rising in his career. And no shortage of, what do we call that? What do the kids call that these days, Luke? A little bit of drip on there?
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Okay.
They certainly do.
They're settling in right now, but some featured fights that the fans are going to want to see come Saturday night.
All right, here we have it. Vito Melnecki, Brandon Lee, gentlemen. And by the way, they're not fighting each other, but they are fighting on the same card. Gentlemen, nice to see you. How are you doing,
Likewise.
Brandon?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing quite well.
Great. Happy New Year.
Likewise.
Happy New Year.
The nickname White Magic, who gave it to you?
Actually, when I was younger, I was like 9 or 10 years old. I was fighting a kid from Virginia, and I was fighting against K. Karoma, trainer.
Yeah.
And after the fight, I won. I looked good. I dropped one of the dudes, and then he was like, from now on, we're going to call you White Magic.
K. Karoma did?
K. Karoma. And then I made that my Xbox name and everything, and then I just carried it on.
It's an unusual nickname. It's quite.
Yeah,
you got the chain there, the ice.
Yeah, it says
Did Dad
White
give
Magic.
you that? Or did you pay for that?
Nah, my sponsor, SVN Select.
They set you up.
Yeah, they hooked me up.
Shit, I need to get some sponsors hooked up.
I was about to say, well, this is a huge opportunity for you, right? You're going to be on the prelim card, taking on Omar Rosales. We did speak at the fighter meeting this morning, but for the folks who may not know, who is your opponent? What are you up against with him?
Yeah, Omar Rosales, based out of Texas, Mexican fighter, 9-1. I'm expecting a good fight, especially down in Texas. So he has great sparring down there in Houston. Houston's becoming a big part of boxing. So I'm expecting the best version of him. We're going to bring the best version of us that night. We're going to put on a great performance.
Do you feel like what is achievable in this fight, and then more broadly, what is achievable for you this year?
Yeah, for this fight, obviously a knockout would be beautiful, especially on such a big card. And then this year, just keep growing. I'm still 20. I want to get 4 to 5 fights in if I can this year. Just keep growing, keep getting better each and every day in the gym. And there's nothing like actual ring experience. So fighting 4 to 5 times is the main goal.
Well, both of you guys are tremendously impressive with your age. 20 years old, just 24 years old, Brandon Lee. And we've seen you... 23, excuse me. Not trying to age you any further. We've seen you climb the ladder, Showbox, to being a featured bout on the Spence Ugas pay-per-view card. That power that you bring has been a calling card, but the more you step up, we're seeing the other sides of you, the chin in your last fight getting off the canvas, boxing the distance. You feel like now you're showing everybody the complete package?
A little bit, just a little bit. I feel like I still have a whole lot more to show the boxing world. We all know that we need to tighten up my defense, and a lot of critics out there who want me to tighten up my defense. So I feel like when I face the right opponent, all that will come out.
Did your social media blow up after your last fight?
My social media did blow up. A lot of sponsors, believe it or not, more sponsors reached out to me, even though I touched the canvas for the first time. And, I think they just saw how I can face adversity and still come out on top.
What did your coach say after the last fight?
He just said, my father said that we need to work on the left hand for I don't know how long, how many hours in the gym. We worked on keeping the left hand high.
Yeah.
And it was over and over and over until we got it right.
Now you're taking on Diego Luque in this fight. What do you know about him?
I know he's a tough guy. He's from Argentina. He went the distance with Jack Catterall. So I know he's tough and he's durable. But after this fight, I need better opposition. I need to go after those top 15 guys. I need my name to be out there.
Do you feel like you have to punish Luque to get there?
I feel like I just need to win convincingly, easy as I have been doing. Just keep on doing what I'm doing. But knockout comes.
We spoke to him this morning in the fighter meeting. He's still on a high from Argentina winning the World Cup. I don't know. He seemed pretty happy. I have to tell you,
his adrenaline's probably still rushing from that. So I better be careful.
It certainly is. All right. So Vito, when you fight in DC, are you going to have? Because you're from New Jersey. Are the folks going to travel down? You're going to have because last time I saw you, you were in the Barclays Center. Yeah. You had a huge crowd there. What about DC?
Yeah, shout out to everyone that follows me around from the Northeast. But DC, we actually have a watch party set up at a local steakhouse, the Franklin Steakhouse.
Wow.
So I think we got close to 500 people going there.
What?
So we're going to do something like that. I know they have little cardboard things with like my head on it and stuff.
That's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
gonna be a cool little event. So
I got to ask you guys both, how do you deal with the pressure when we were your age? We weren't in forward-facing positions in front of a camera, being respected for our craft. At least not me. I don't know about you.
No, I was
23 years old, 20 years old.
No.
Brandon, there's pressure when, you know, at that time, a lot of people getting out of college trying to figure out their life. You're determined. You know the path you're on. Are you able to just brush that off like nothing?
It took a while. Definitely took a while. I remember doing my first interview with the reporter Eli Setback in 2017, 2016. And seeing that interview to now is like, wow, how much I've grown, how much I've matured. And, you know, as I get older, as I get wiser, I'm only going to get better at interviews.
Yeah, and Vito, are you able to blow off some steam? I may have been doing things your age that I'm not proud of, but I know you're dedicated, you're in the gym. How do you deal with the fame?
He's still not doing them.
Yeah,
with the
so-
fame, with the success, all of that stuff.
I think, I mean, speaking for me, and I think also Brandon, being like in the amateurs and stuff, like I feel like we've known since we were younger that this is what we wanted to do. And to see it now coming all together, being on stages like this, we're just going to take full advantage of the opportunities and everything that comes with it.
100%.
Well, I know both of you guys are students of the game as well. In Saturday night's pay-per-view main event, Gervonta Tank Davis against a rising unbeaten fighter and 130-pound champion Héctor Luis Garcia. Brandon, when you look at this matchup, it's like the boxing fans know how good Garcia really is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the general crossover public is going to get that introduction. How do you look at this fight stylistically?
You know, Tank is a very, very skillful fighter, powerful, very good defense, good explosives, good speed. And his opponent, he's a southpaw, right?
I believe so, yes.
He shocked the world with Chris Colbert. No one was expecting that. And, you know, I think for the first few rounds it may be a little interesting, but I think Tank's going to figure him out and begin to walk him down and break him down.
Is that what you saw, real quickly? Is that what you saw in the Romero fight with Tank as well? Because he didn't stop him until, what, the 6th or 7th?
Sixth round, I believe. You know, that fight, I was surprised. I really was surprised. I think that I think Tank knew, though, that Rolly, you know, we all know how Rolly is. He's every punch he throws is a power punch. So if you try to flex for 10 minutes, you're going to be dead tired.
Yeah.
So I think Tank knew that Rolly was going to get tired. So I think Tank was just cruising, letting him get a little more tired, more fatigue. And then when he had the opportunity, he just went for it.
Vito, what about you in the main event today?
Yeah,
or this coming weekend?
So this weekend I got Tank winning.
Yep.
I think it'll be middle of the fight if he does get a knockout. I think the longer the fight is, I think it actually will benefit Garcia a little bit just because he's a volume puncher. But I think it's going to be a great fight. But I think the fight that's going to steal the show is Roman Villa versus Rashidi Ellis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, Roman Villa is a serious character.
Oh, I sparred with him. I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. I had a few rounds with him, and I know Rashidi Ellis and his family well, too. But, yeah, Roman Villa, he's got power in both hands, and he throws a lot of punches, volume.
What's the hardest thing about fighting him? Or I know you sparred him, but in the sense you could get a read on that.
The way he works the body, he puts the body shot, he places them perfectly, and he works his left hand real well.
Well, and for you, Brandon, on the co-main event, Jerron Boots Ennis, just a very incredible talent. Yeah. What do you make of, what does he do well that folks should be aware of?
Man, everything. If you were to, on a video game, you get to build your fighter.
Yeah.
Just copy Boots. I mean, yeah, speed, defense, power, the length, turn lefty to righty, good foot movement. I think Boots is a complete fighter.
Well, I got to tell you, gentlemen, we are very excited for your fights this weekend. It'll be on Showtime, the prelim stream, Showtime YouTube channel. BC and I will be on the call. Brandon Lee, Vito Mielnicki. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you
and we can't wait to see what happens.
Absolutely.
There it
Thanks
is.
for having us.
White Magic,
Thank you so
everybody.
much, guys.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward to it. Saturday evening on the Showtime
There we
Sports
are.
YouTube channel. Showtime pay-per-view countdown. We'll check that out. But, Luke, loaded card here, top to bottom, as we talk about. Gervonta Tank Davis on his way in here. Héctor Luis Garcia will hear from the main event combatant shortly. But I kind of like the uptick in the energy in the building. You know?
Yes,
people seem to have brought their A game today.
We do have to figure this part out here real quickly. I don't know what's going on here. Ashley, I think we're good. All right. Very good, gentlemen.
All right.
There we go.
All good.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much.
There it is. All right. So, BC, let's get back to thank you, guys. Let's get back to reacting to what we saw on the presser here. We're all waiting for Tank Davis and we are waiting for Héctor Luis Garcia when we...
Well, can we stay with Boots for a second?
Okay, sure.
Because you look at the opportunity here for the young unbeaten welterweight who has already become the mandatory for one of Errol Spence Jr.'s titles at welterweight, who has 3 of the 4. He's going to be a mandatory with a victory on Saturday, the same opportunity facing Karan Chikadze, his opponent, to be the interim IBF title holder, which basically means you're knocking on that door, #1 contender. We don't know who's going to win this fight. We'll find out. But when you look at Boots as not just a prospect, but a super prospect, one who switches stances, sort of jumps through your screen. We've done, it's sacrilege, but we've done the young LeBron comparisons in some way of just saying somebody who, we don't know what the future will bring. I like the trash talk back and forth with Rashidi Ellis saying it could be me next. But what are we going to end 2023 saying about Jaron Boots Ennis as compared to starting it? It does depend on how the matchmaking plays out. Does he end up getting one of the big champions or fighting for a vacant title if one of the titles is stripped? Or does he have to wait for maybe Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford to finally have that welterweight summit? The potential, though, for what we might be saying about him to end the year. Fighter of the year? Top 10 pound-for-pound ranked? Are we closing in on that potential if he stays this course and continues to elevate himself?
It does feel like that is in play, but the thing you started out saying to me seems like the most important one, which is the matchmaking. They just don't want to fight him, right? That's a real big problem. It's like people inside boxing know who Jaron Ennis is, but he has not turned into like a household name yet. And I think that's very fair to say. He's not super popular in that sense. And so you get to a spot where you don't have a huge name yet, and yet you're terrifying to fight. What would be the upside of taking that fight if there's another one that doesn't have that same equation? I think it's going to be hard. That's why he has to get into these mandatory situations, BC, because without the sanctioning body truly compelling the fight, forcing it, I'm not exactly sure how any of these happen.
Yeah,
quite honest with you.
Chikadze, making his U.S. debut, has gone on the win streak to get to this point. Has not fought on American television yet. It's going to be an eye-opener for a lot of us to see what he brings at this level. Same thing for Boots Ennis. We'll see if he can get through that. But as we pair back to this main event, and of course, in just moments, we'll get both Gervonta Tank Davis and Héctor Luis Garcia on the dais. Luke, when we look at what Héctor Luis Garcia has done in 2021, go from a guy who had fought past the 8th round just once and wasn't a household name, as they say, maybe even in his own household. All disrespect held back because I'm joking here. But the point is, he wore a T-shirt during the Showtime All Access program promoting this fight that said Fighter of the Year. While he didn't end up, let's say, in the final 1, 2, or 3 in the voting this year, he did make a strong case when you consider last January handing Chris Colbert his first defeat, going the distance, but dominating with pressure and power punches, and then he takes a 130-pound world title from Roger Gutierrez. When you look at the game of Héctor Luis Garcia, maybe, he doesn't speak English. We haven't seen him on TV talking trash to get your attention, but his game does under the tutelage of Bob Santos. What does he do well from what you've seen?
Yeah, he packs a lunch. So you heard Vito Mielnicki talk about it. He does volume punch. So first of all, he just works a lot, right? He's constantly in your face. He's constantly pumping the jab. Another piece that's really important, and this obviously comes into play depending on what the stances of the other opponent, but if you have a southpaw, in his case, going up against an orthodox, angles. He's big on angles and volume, switching to this side, throwing, switching to that side, throwing, setting up this side. He feints, he fakes a little bit, right? But he's sort of just always kind of in your face. Not in a brawling pressure style, but in a it's always raining outside, I hope you got an umbrella kind of style. That's really what he does. And so when you pair that with angles, when you pair that with dominant, or I should say like good footwork anyway, it just becomes a huge problem for some of these guys. And Chris Colbert thought he was the issue, BC. Chris Colbert thought he was going to out-slick him. But it turns out that one, Garcia actually has a pretty decent, technically foundational game himself. And then two, the over amount of volume, he was able to set traps for Colbert. He was able to get him to walk into problems, and he just didn't have an answer for it. Garcia looks to me like the kind of guy who does his homework. And I think a lot of guys coast on, I'm good enough, I'll figure it out. Now, we'll talk about that in just a little bit later. Joining us now on the dais is the man. Boy, he had a lot to say today. I'm usually
quiet.
How you doing, Rashidi?
I'm doing good.
Boy, you were in a mood today, huh?
Yeah, I'm just a little hot right now.
How are you feeling overall?
I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You ready for a Saturday?
Of course. Yeah, this is what I came here for.
Rashidi, I gotta ask you, because like we asked Boo Andre a few seconds ago, he had to navigate sort of the other side of the game, the business game, the politics to get to where he is today. To some degree, you had to do that to get under the PBC banner, and now we got your names in conversations like Boots Ennis, but in respect to your opponent on Saturday, you have to pass that test. How hard was that when you look back at the last few years to navigate all that, but to now be in the right spot at the right time?
Well, look back at it, it's just life, but I'm just happy to be. I'm happy to be here. I'm worried about the moment right now.
All right, well, let's talk about that moment. Are we talking about Royman Villa? Are we talking about a scary dude facing
He
across
looks
from?
scary.
He does?
Yeah.
So? Oh, yeah.
Well, listen, we're not pro fighters, so we have a different view of things.
Yeah.
What did you see when you faced off with him?
He's taller than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that.
What about the art? He's got some ink on there.
He's got some.
I got tattoos. Oh, I seen that. Yeah.
On his neck.
Yeah, it look kind of cool.
He's got the side. You know, he's got.
I wish I had tattoos.
You don't have tattoos?
No, my mom wouldn't let me.
I mean, my mom didn't let me either. I just went ahead and did it anyway. He's got the sideburn tattoos. You seen those? Those are the ones that are
I
like.
see that. We had.
He was here a minute ago.
All right, well, I called his breakthrough fight on Showbox last September, where he came in there against an unbeaten fighter in Boca Chica and really just showed that power punching and all that stuff. You never know when a guy comes and makes their U.S. debut and you haven't seen it on American TV. Does the record and the knockout streak match up with what we saw? And that fight, to me, it matched up. How serious are you taking this challenge come Saturday night?
Oh, it's a serious challenge. Like, you know, his knockout power looks like it's real. So, you know, I gotta, you know, stick and move in there and make sure you don't touch me. It don't matter how hard he is if he ain't touching me.
Did you watch tape on him?
Yeah. But
so size him up.
Like, him and Lucky a lot. Yeah, 24 knockouts and 25 wins. So, but he ain't gonna be lucky on Saturday.
What do you possess that he just hasn't seen before?
Too fast.
The speed.
Yeah, it's to call me speedy for a reason, man.
Yeah. The hand speed, the foot speed, what kind of speed?
Everything. Quick.
All right. In terms of like why you were going back and forth with Jaron Ennis, what was that all about?
Nah, I didn't mean that to happen. Because I was already mad already. I was already mad at
I see. You were already heated up.
I was already hot. And then truth, I don't know what he said. I thought he said something disrespectful. I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Oh, he did anything? I feel like an asshole now.
I don't recall that. I mean, I think he thought you did, and then I think he retaliated.
Oh, yeah? So it's whatever.
Well, let's talk about that. There were some rumblings that you could have been facing each other on this night. Instead, you have other opponents, and who knows about the future. But was this the fight that was offered to you? Was it close? Kind of, and it really wasn't. Like, you know, they talk about, like, I saw something on the media talk about I turned out like double the money or something. I mean, it's like it was crazy. I'm like, come on, guys, come on.
That's not true?
Yeah, you know, I never ran from a fight in my life. Like, don't do me like that.
So where do you think that report came from?
I don't know.
Hard to say.
People talk.
People talk?
Yeah, people talk.
I suppose that's true. What do you make of his fight with Karin Chukadzian?
Shit, I never seen the other guy, so I can't say. I don't know. But I believe he's going to win.
You think he's going to win?
Yeah.
What about the main event? What predictions for Tank Davis and Héctor Luis García?
That's going to be a good fight. The other guy is he's a good fighter, but I think Tank is way overskilled for him.
You do?
Yeah.
Even though Garcia upset Colbert and is undefeated and an Olympian and all that stuff?
Yeah, but Tank and Colbert are two different fighters. You know, style makes fights.
Right.
I'm not saying Colbert is bad. I'm just saying style makes fights.
Fair enough. In terms of this year for you, right, obviously you want to get the win on Saturday. It starts there. Let's say it goes according to plan. I mean, it couldn't have gone better.
It is. Positive.
All right, fair enough. What happens after that? What's the goal? If I talk to you a year from today, what should have happened in that year?
In the perfect world?
In a perfect world.
Hopefully I get the world title shot with Earl or Terrence Crawford.
That's what you want?
Yeah, definitely.
How likely do you think, like, how much of that is inside your control? How much of that is outside your control?
To be real, you know, I got to work my way up because I've been out the scene for a while.
Yeah.
You know, so, I would take it if they offer me, like, hell yeah, but, you know, I guess I got to earn my way back up.
Yeah. Does that put pressure on you in terms of entering your name into that larger title picture, which has Spence, Crawford, Ennis on the rise, Staniotis, Keith Thurman's still there? Do you have to look spectacular on Saturday to enter that?
There's no pressure. I'm just going to do what I got to do. At the end of the day, I'm just going to get the victory.
Just being Rashidi Ellis?
Yeah, I might show off a little bit. But
do you think, by the way, you think Crawford and Spence actually fight this next year?
I hope so, but I doubt it, though. But
if you were a betting man, would you bet on it or bet against it?
It's kind of hard to say. But now I bet against, I don't think they're going to fight.
No, you don't.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well,
though.
he better hope they don't fight so he can get in there.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, in there, right?
If they did fight, who would win?
That's a 50-50 fight.
You got to move the mic.
Excited. They be going to my lips, so I'm holding it like that.
Yeah, sorry. Who did you think would win?
That's like a 50-50 fight, so I don't know exactly who's going to win that one.
All right, well, I got to tell you, we're really excited for your fight on Saturday. You are going to be the second fight on the Showtime pay-per-view main card.
Yes.
Taking on Royman Gonzalez, who, by the way, Roman, was it Gonzalez? I'm sorry, Roman V. I apologize.
Yeah. He looked like a Garcia.
Who looks terrifying. He looks legitimately terrifying. Yeah, well, to us, he does.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, we're
like a biker
regular
boy.
civilians. We don't have the hand speed or the will.
That's right. We're not Speedy Rashidi Ellis. That's a very different scenario for you.
Best of luck to you, though, Saturday night in this calendar year. We do expect big things. You got a little bit of nice fashion bling going on there on the
Thank you. I'm trying.
I can respect that game. Everybody, Speedy Rashidi Ellis. We'll see you come Saturday night. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
There he is. All right, resetting here. Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas, Washington, D.C. Oop, there we are. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all good. It's live TV, so to speak. BC, let's talk briefly, if we can, here about the main event. We are waiting on Tank Davis and Héctor Luis Garcia. Now, let's just be honest about it. We have to talk about the situation as it is. About a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, Tank Davis was arrested in Florida for domestic violence. He was let out on bail. He was charged
misdemeanor battery.
Misdemeanor battery. I know for a fact I spoke to Gene Wong of the Washington Post. He has spoken to Gene Wong of the Washington Post. Tank Davis did, and there's a whole article coming out, I think either today or tomorrow, answering for some of what had happened. There are some other elements to the story that we just don't have time to get into, but that's the basic overview. There's a lot of questions about whether this fight should have gone on, about whether he should have continued, all different kinds of things. BC, how do you assess what happened with Tank and what it all means for this weekend?
I thought, look, the news was disappointing, and it's hard to maintain a certain level of benefit of the doubt for somebody in Tank Davis. We love watching so much, love getting to interview him, but has had those missteps outside of the ring, which would certainly hurt his reputation. The thing it hasn't slowed, though, was his development and growth inside the ring. So Gervonta Davis, the person, is certainly going to have larger questions to answer, even separate from this situation as we move forward. The question I have as we point toward the fight, though, come Saturday night against fellow unbeaten Héctor Luis Garcia, is what is Gervonta going to show us from those intangible side, from the makeup, from the ability to take distractions and compartmentalize in them to focus on the fight at hand? The distractions isn't just the legal trouble. It's sometimes in the social media age, the reaction of the people, the court of public opinion, all that comes with that. Part of the narrative for Gervonta Davis coming into this fight was he's standing on his own now from a promotional standpoint. He had come up under Mayweather Promotions, had Floyd Mayweather, Leonard Ellerbe on his right and left shoulder, helping guide him, helping build up his star. This is the sidestep. This is Tank maturing into his own man, leading his own brand, leading his own charge. Even though he's separate from Floyd Mayweather, if we look back at the TBE, Floyd himself, one of his greatest, most underrated skills, whether some of the drama outside of the ring was caused by him or not, was doing exactly what I said, being able to pause that, focus on the task at hand, continue to handle his business, take the preparation, and apply it to the fight. That's what I'm looking for from Gervonta Tank Davis, because we have laid out, and the real boxing fans know that we mentioned that Héctor Luis Garcia is no passing through, step up type of, keep me busy here and get me ready for the next pay-per-view. This is a pay-per-view fight against an unbeaten champion and a guy with an Olympic amateur background and a lot of recent success to show you what he has. But for Tank Davis, it's not just about what he does in the ring. It's about how he handles himself, how he's able to block out everything, and then I think more importantly, separate from boxing, how he's able to make the adjustments to his life to get back on the right path.
The second part to me is the important one because, of course, again, innocent. These are all alleged, right? This is what has been alleged. Obviously, we do know for a fact he was arrested, but everything else about it is alleged at this stage, at least legally speaking anyway. But, of course, he does have the two previous run-ins that we can't ignore. And also, he has a jury trial for a hit-and-run in February. Like, it seems to me he's on the precipice now where if he's going to be managing his own affairs, there's a broader conversation about the ethics involved in terms of how he manages his own conduct. But beyond that, managing his career, really, these kinds of things, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons for them to stop. One of them is, how can you actually reach your potential? True. How can you actually do what you say you want to do in boxing when you have constant issues like this?
Without the chaos, without the turmoil.
Without the chaos, without the time spent away, without the energy and resources that have to be devoted to it. Again, that's not even getting into the conversation about what actually happened in those incidents. It's a lot to deal with.
It absolutely is.
It's not a good thing to deal with either.
This is the key stretch of Gervonta Davis's career. The further establishment of himself as an independent pay-per-view brand. And then, not Floyd 2.0. He's carving out his own niche, but he's got that crossover celebrity audience. He connects with certain elements of the overall fan base that are trending younger, that are trending in different areas that the traditional old boxing stronghold doesn't hit. He represents many things to many people, but this is a key part in his journey where he has heard in the past some criticisms about the matchmaking and the steps he chose. Part of that. he's in or right outside looking in, depending on where you stand in the overall pound-for-pound conversation. From a commercial standpoint, this guy is routinely selling pay-per-views, routinely selling out arenas all over the country. But now is the time to put it all together,
right.
to put the past behind him, to really learn and change and grow and block out the distractions outside of the ring, because he's got too much business to handle inside of it. In this game in boxing, when you're always looking to please the stronghold of that pure boxing fan base which carries the sport, everyone's goal is to cross over, right? Everyone's goal is to make the type of pay-per-view event that brings in the casual or the lapsed boxing fans. Tank, in a lot of ways, is that perfect offering to so many people who can look at him as the Mike Tyson of the smaller weight classes, or look at the colorful way, the tattoos, the way he brings himself to there. You want to see that go the direction of a success story and maxing out his potential. You know, I hope he can do that here. He seems, in the interviews I've seen leading up to here, and we'll hear from him from a moment, where he needs to be mentally despite everything going on outside of the ring. Again, whether some of it was brought on by himself or not. But there's a big test on Saturday night, like I sort of just laid out, that does go deeper than boxing.
All right, let's look forward now. Let's imagine something does go well for him on Saturday. He gets the win. The big item on the calendar would be a proposed, or I should say penciled in fight with Ryan Garcia in April in Las Vegas. If, in fact, everything goes to plan for Tank Davis on Saturday, that would be the subsequent fight for both of them.
But you notice Tank's not a guy who's this week talking about that. Tank's not a guy, when you sat down with him a couple weeks back, not much. That's really talking about Ryan Garcia, and that's the respect he rightfully has for how tough Héctor Luis Garcia is.
Right.
And that's certainly the point that at the very least you want to keep hammering home, that this guy's got an Olympic background. He's got close to 400 amateur fights. He's got the Olympic rings tattooed on his arm, which you only do if you're at a certain level and you have certain expectations about the career. It didn't work out for him in the end of the 2016 games, getting eliminated.
Let's pause the Ryan Garcia portion of the conversation for just a moment. Let me ask you, if Héctor Luis Garcia was this good, why was everyone so wrong pre-fight before he fought Chris Colbert?
I think it was just a lack of exposure in some ways, in terms of if anyone hadn't distinctly followed his amateur career. And while he was decorated coming out of the Dominican Republic and fought at the Olympic level, obviously in that Olympic season it didn't go his way and he didn't medal out with the goals he had in mind, which maybe would have given him a broader picture. And sometimes when a fighter turns pro, they might not have that same type of promotional push behind them or the right team. It seems, at least right now in this season of coming off such an incredible breakthrough year, that Héctor Luis Garcia finally has everything lined up in a row. The right support system, but also the right performances packaged back to back that have elevated him now to this level where Tank Davis looks at the landscape and says, that's the fight I want. That's the one I want to test myself against, not just to prepare me for the hopes of this crossover, multifaceted event against Ryan Garcia, which could be massive for boxing. Could be one of the biggest fights you can make this calendar year. But I love that Tank looks at it as, I got to pass this test first. And while people have been slow to really understand who Héctor Luis Garcia is, watch his two fights from last year. Watch the Chris Colbert upset. Watch the title victory over Roger Gutierrez. As some of the things you articulated, Luke, what makes this guy so good is not only the chin he showed and the intention and the want to be great, which has to be there, but the ability to marriage almost two completely different styles at the same time. He was a technical amateur style in the Olympic game, which is very point system heavy, technique, footwork, all of that. He opened his pro career and purposely fought a much more aggressive style, walking guys down, standing in the pocket, being willing to trade, catch damage, and throw back. The way he's been able to marry that at the pro level has been beautiful to see, because we talked a lot about Chris Colbert coming into that matchup last January. We were only talking about Héctor Garcia coming out of that matchup, and the reason is, if you hadn't seen that fight on Showtime, was Garcia got up on Colbert, took his best shots, and meticulously wore him down with pressure. Luke, pressure doesn't always burst pipes, as people like to say, but if you can marry pressure with with a volume of technical shots, sneaky uppercuts, sort of sidearm hooks that he throws from various looks, and a great underrated trainer behind him that Héctor Luis Garcia has in Bob Santos, who is a growing legion of champions under him right now, 3 of them from the Dominican Republic. Here's a respected guy, Bob, that we've known in boxing a long time, cut man, decorated behind-the-scenes guy, now coming to the forefront with these fighters that he's treating like sons to him. You can watch the All Access series that Showtime does and get a real look into see how intimate their relationship is. You give a lot of respect to what Bob Santos is doing, but it's up to Héctor Luis Garcia. Luke, he's putting both styles together in such a marriage that if Tank Davis is going to beat him on Saturday, which the betting oddsman will tell you Tank may be more likely, more decorated, coming in more power, and let's not forget Garcia moving up in weight from 135. Tank's going to have to do it in the pocket against a guy who's coming on with volume, technique, and tension. Again, this ain't anybody's easy walk in the park. Hector Luis Garcia, a live dog, entering Saturday night.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And also just to remind folks about Hector Luis Garcia that, yes, he is a pressure guy, but if you look at some of the shots that dropped Colbert, they were from a little bit of distance.
Oh, yeah.
He's not on top of you where it's all like right here.
Well, he's in punching range.
Yes.
Which can bring across a certain level of anxiety and mental fatigue
but
from your opponents.
He's not Isak Cruz. And I'm not in any way saying anything. Isak Cruz is a phenomenal fighter, but they're different styles.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it should be noted, like he pops guys at distance. He gets them to overcommit and then counters them. He's very good at setting traps because he can throw so much volume in there that he can begin to weave in problems into it over time to reset the pattern, reset the experience sort of for his opponents, and then take advantage
Well,
of it.
it's almost an oxymoron, if that's even the right word. I don't know if my education can back that up, Luke. But is it like, when I say perfect marriage, is he an educated brawler? Is he a technical brawler? In some ways, in some fashions, he is. It's never irresponsible. Yes, he has to lean on his chin, meaning Garcia, in some of those big moments, and he did that against Colbert. He went into the kitchen at punching range and was able to constantly put pressure on. But he's not there to be hit in the same way that we know sort of the traditional, guys that come out, put their head down and go after it and are willing to take two or three to land one. This is a very precise boxer, and that's the key part of it. You need the backbone, you need the intention, you need all that, and the amateur experience to go with it. He's got all that. He's also riding something called momentum right now. And it's why when we set the stage of where's Tank's head going to be at with everything else going on, I know where Hector Garcia's head is going to be at. This guy's trying to live all of his dreams right now. He's coming through a breakthrough year where everybody got to know his name in the boxing game. He's trying to go beyond the boxing game here. He's trying to win more world titles, and if he comes in there and upsets Tank Davis, the opportunity commercially almost doubles and triples what his opportunity will be to get more title opportunities in big fights. A huge life-changing opportunity for Hector Garcia on Saturday, but he does seem to be wired the right kind of way with the right background that it's in play that he does this, which is why when you hear Gervonta, when you hear Coach Calvin Ford talk about Garcia, they're very respectful. They know what they're getting into.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Let's talk about Gervonta Davis's game a little bit. Everyone talks about the power with good reason. It is substantial, but he's got some more skills than that. So let me ask you this question. What is your favorite Gervonta Davis win?
There's been many good ones. And when you look at that pay-per-view opportunity he had against Leo Santa Cruz at 130 pounds in a stretch where he fought 3 different pay-per-view fights at different weight classes, that one-punch moment was certainly impressive. But overall, I've got to give the fight after that. When he went into San Antonio on pay-per-view and moved up a division at 140 pounds, it took on Mario Barrios, an unbeaten, hungry fighter, a fighter who we saw last year came up on the losing end at welterweight against Keith Thurman, but pushed him and gave him a tough effort. This was a Tank who... the power's there, but moving up to 140 against a bigger opponent, the one-punch power maybe wasn't there with the same level of potency. So we got to see more of the game planning, the IQ of Tank, the technique. Always a good boxer, always a very efficient and powerful counterpuncher, but he had to use more of that craft and those skills to set the foundation, which led to the late-round stoppage. And the way he did that, the way he did it brick by brick and built that up, was a beautiful thing to watch. That's why it's easy to get lost on Tank and only remember the knockouts and only remember the power, but forget about giving him that critical respect on the back end for his own amateur background, the craft, the hard work he puts in, his commitment to being a pure boxer to set up the power punches just makes that power shine on an even larger level.
I'm going to say the Leo Santa Cruz fight for me. To your point, I don't really disagree with your characterization of the Mario Barrios fight and how he won it and why that's important. But to me, and I've often said this, it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, maybe to an extent I am, that people overly focus on Tank's power and don't notice the other things. There were other elements in play that Tank used to set up the shot that ultimately sent Leo Santa Cruz crumbling to the mat. But to be that small, right? Tank Davis is not a big guy. There's a comment on the video where we sat next to each other, and someone said it looks like I won Tank Davis at a raffle at a county fair because I'm a larger person.
You're talking about one of those crane machines?
Yeah,
it's impossible to get that stuffed animal.
I apparently did it, and I got a world champion boxer out of it. But the point being is he's not a big guy, and so for him to carry consistent one-punch power, and by the way, should be noted, like going back to the Gamboa fight and other ones, late. He can do it late as well. Or the Barrios fight, I think, was it the 11th round he finally stopped him? Right, so he doesn't have just terrifying power for a guy that size. It carries late, and part of the reason it carries late is because he knows when to use it, when not to use it, how to set it up, how to trick someone. Rolly walking into it. Santa Cruz going to the same side 3 times in a row and then paying for it. If you become predictable against Tank Davis, he will unleash a terrifying force on you. That is what Garcia is up against on Saturday.
And I think, look, Tank Davis is only getting better. And part of the reason why I say that and believe it is because it goes back to saying you can get too caught up in looking at the knockouts and not really understanding or noticing the craft that he uses to set that up, because it had been a long time, especially in the lower weight classes, before he found somebody who can push him late into those fights. But, you know, you can go back to his breakthrough title win over Jose Petraza, which showed you early on the potential he has. But now that he's fighting later in fights, now that he's stepping up into higher weight classes and trying to find more difficult competition, and, well, look, let me just give an editorial here. We can certainly have a lot of fun with what Rolly Romero brought to the table from just a ridiculous standpoint and a trash-talking element. And Rolly stole the show a few times, even if he teases the idea of going overboard a little bit. But when Tank talks about that Rolly fight, he's very respectful in saying, I had to be precise.
Right.
I had a guy who, if he hit me with either hand in any situation, his sole intent in there was hurting you. And Rolly was awkward enough where he made that a little bit of a tense fight for about 3, 4, 5 rounds until Tank was perfectly able to set him up. But I think these different level of challenges where it's not just Tank as the bigger guy, the bigger puncher walking you down. Now it's Tank, the smaller guy in the higher weight classes, being forced to use every tool in the tool belt. I think he's getting better by being forced to show this across the distance. The Isaac Cruz fight, which he took on Pitbull at last minute when Rolly had to pull out the first time, you know, that goes down as a close decision in the end. That was a late opponent switch, and we had to see Tank the boxer in there because it was clear early on that Cruz wasn't going to be taken out with one punch. This is part of the growth. This is what you need to see. You need to fight different fighters in different situations, go deep into fights and show what you can do. Especially on the role that Tank Davis is now on from a matchmaking standpoint. If he's not in your top 10 pound for pound, he will be, Luke, because he's knocking on that door and he's showing you. Commercially, we already know exactly who he is. Critically, though, he's proving to be on that same level.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, of course, if you want to buy the Showtime pay-per-view, you can do that at showtime.com/PPV. I do believe there are some tickets left at the Capital One Arena. Not many of them, as our own Showtime's Brian Custer told us at the dais earlier for the undercard press conference. So if you are in the area or you're going to be in the area, you got to get your tickets quickly. There's not a whole lot left. But, of course, if you want to watch from the comfort of your own home, you certainly may do that. Showtime.com/PPV. It'll be a 9 p.m. in the East start from Washington, D.C. BC, we talked a little bit about Jaron Ennis. Can we talk a little bit more about Jaron Ennis? Because he's just one of my favorites.
I'm here all day for that.
Jaron Ennis is such a special talent. I have said many very laudatory things about him. I don't want to go over them again. But I liked what Brandon Lee had to say about him. If I had to ask, because every fighter's got strengths and weaknesses. There are strengths and weaknesses to every person and to every style, and that includes Jaron Ennis as well. However, he is one of the most complete boxers I've ever seen. The one thing that might be really lacking on his resume, BC, is not so much a skill per se. Southpaw, orthodox, he can fight from either. Good shot selection, good accuracy, athleticism, range, footwork, you name it. But he's not exactly battle-tested yet, is he? He's not exactly had someone put it on him and then have to respond. I know Brandon Lee was kind of upset that he'd been knocked down, but he did win that fight. He stormed back and looked good towards the end. There's at least a question there that's been answered. Maybe your defense needs a little bit of work, but your heart, your ability to focus did not. Not that I'm questioning Boots Ennis, but we don't really know how well he would do in a firefight in that sense.
You don't know what you don't know. And he, to some degree, as confident as he is about his own ability and the great sparring I'm sure he gets behind the scenes with many top names, he doesn't know what he truly has in there. And that was one of the big questions when I talked to him a couple weeks back on our own combat sports series on Showtime Digital called Morning Combat, in which saying, look, you know, you've cut through these guys like the Fruit Ninja on the iPad back in the day. I mean, it's just, you know, Delorme was supposed to be a tough out. Sergey Lipinets, former champion, was supposed to be a tough out. And it's just slicing through. Hey, Boots, do you feel like you've been tested anywhere close from the standpoint of we're never going to find out how great you are until someone forces it out of you? And obviously that moment of forcing it out of you could lead to you faltering. It could lead to your downfall if you don't have it. He's screaming that he has it across every single category. It's not just saying he's one of the most well-rounded fighters for a young rising star that we've seen in some time. he's potentially the most dynamic, spectacular from the area of what Brandon Lee said, video game type fighter. You know, mash the buttons together and see what kind of spinning move you can get if it was a fighting game across the scenes. Well, this is boxing, and he still almost does that with the ability to switch stances and rise up with uppercuts and shots you didn't see coming. Also his ability to box from distance and control and keep you away. But when you go in there against names that are expected to be the one that is finally the test for you, and you're just slicing through them like nothing is there, obviously we're going to have a problem identifying some level of a true ceiling above him, and I think so will he, which is going to make every step of his journey Saturday against Karen Chukadzian for the interim IBF welterweight title, and whatever happens next, whether it's Errol Spence, whether it's Terrence Crawford, whether it's Keith Thurman, or Dennis Ugas, any of the big names in this division, not knowing truly what's under the hood until it's race time, to borrow a couple metaphors, that's the pull. That's the rub. That's the drug that's getting you in the building. And I think for him, it's not just what's it going to look like the first time somebody offers him opposition, a question I want to find the answer to. It's also how big is that ceiling when he does match himself against these guys, when he finally does get in there against somebody on that rare level of a Spencer Crawford who both tease all-time great skills in front of you but have never lost. Is he the first guy that can go in there and make it look easy against them too? Is that likely? I don't know the odds here, but I have not seen a young prospect with this type of complete skill set, with the plus levels of dynamic ability to do things that we didn't see coming and maybe to some degree didn't know was possible in my history of covering this game, which is just a decade plus, but I've been a fan a lot longer before that. When was the last time in boxing, outside of somebody who's rising for being a knockout force, where you looked at him and say, right now, and this is what I'm saying about Boots Ennis, right now, he might actually be the best fighter in the world. And that sounds ridiculous. We don't know that yet, though.
You mean from a talent perspective?
From a talent. You're not going to give him a pound-for-pound slot yet until he's earned it, right? Until he fights those names that unequivocally earn that. But in some degree, the eye test is a major part of when you're doing a pound-for-pound vote. And the eye test with Boots is screaming such loud noises that, when I say that, and it's hyperbole, yes, but when I say we might be looking at the best fighter in the world, yet we just don't know it, to me, Luke, that's enough reason to sit back, pay my money, and see this fight and find out along the way. Because talents like this don't come around too often. And whether he ends up fulfilling that or not, as we stand right now, there's not a damn thing you can say negative about his game and what he's done up to this point. He's been spectacular.
When you were watching boxing in your late teens, early 20s, I should say late teens, actually, because you're old as dirt. When did Roy Jones Jr. come across your in the early to mid 90s there, when he first made the rise as a middleweight champion, and eventually built up to the James Toney crossover fight. And it's funny that you bring up Roy Jones, because there is that rare air of next level athletes. And I know some folks can be like, how can you compare Boots Ennis to Roy Jones? I am obviously not, in the sense that one is a Hall of Famer and one is just getting started. I am not. I am in the sense that we have so much excitement around Boots. There is so much intrigue into the words you used, our word we use on Morning Combat, the upper bound limits. Like, what can he actually do? What we've seen have been flashes of greatness. I get a similar sense from folks who watched Roy at the very sort of similar juncture of his career, feeling like there's this limitless possibility.
Absolutely. And that's what's rare. And it's a different type of limitless when you compare it to other great fighters on the rise. When Floyd Mayweather was 21 years old, he was a world champion fighter of the year and already in the top 10 pound for pound, but it was a little bit more like, look at that guy. He might be perfect. He closes down all the avenues of everybody else and can control the fight on his terms. That's different from the type of athlete or Roy Jones is, which is one of one in a million. And that's different from what we've seen so far in Boots Ennis, who marries that next level athleticism with an understanding and advancement of the purest form of the craft that does seem to belie his age. And when, Luke, you mix that with his seamless ability to switch stances, not a new trend. Marvin Hagler, so many fighters have been able to do it. But for great fighters to consistently do it, it's not always normal. Terrence Crawford's one of them today. But I think we're seeing a new generation of special fighters like Boots Ennis, who are coming up going, this is part of my game. This is what I do. I'm unpredictable. I switch stances. I can throw punches from any angle. I can leap in and out. Yeah, there's some Roy Jones crossover in that regard. boy, is it hard to make that comparison because you want to see him prove it first. But like I mentioned, the journey of watching that and it continues Saturday against Karan Chukadze.
I mean, he's not in this co-main event role by accident.
Not by accident at all. And as I said to him when I interviewed him a few weeks back, I wonder if this will be the last time he's not headlining a card. A great opportunity here in the co-main event of a pay-per-view with one of the biggest stars in the game, and Gervonta Davis. But Gervonta Ennis, his star is, you're not going to be able to keep that. You're not going to be able to hide that on a card any longer.
Man, it seems like every generation, Philly just produces
well, that's the thing.
hammers.
And he's a Philadelphia guy at the end of the day, which can be a good or a bad thing.
Why
right?
is that?
If there's a reputation of a Philly fighter, it's boy, is that a tough guy. Boy's that a guy that can...
we say Philly fighters, we don't mean the drunk fans in the stands at the Flyers.
Yeah, nobody who's throwing batteries at Santa Claus are we talking about. But, I mean, there's very few in boxing where you mention a place, a city, a camp where they come from, and it's like stereotypical understanding of who they are and how they're wired. I say it could be a good or bad thing. Normally, it's a good thing. I'm a Philadelphia fighter. I'm tough. I can take your shot, and I'm willing to give you mine and go through hell to do that. The downfall of that is sometimes you get fighters that are a little bit too hungry and too willing to do that when their skill set might offer the want for a little bit more control and patience in order to lean more on their skills. But we talk about the things we don't know about Boots Ennis. We don't know what it's going to look like when somebody gets him inside, hurts him, how he reacts. He's a Philadelphia fighter, though, at the end of the day. So it gives me a little bit more confidence he might be able to react great. But again, we're going to find out Karan Chukadze on Saturday. Big things again if he wins. But the main event, Luke, we're waiting for the fighters. They're still going to be here.
Yes.
Hector Luis Garcia.
I just got an update that there is no update just yet, but we are waiting for them.
I mean, this DC traffic can be a... It can be
at this time of the day. 2:30 it can be.
This is your home city. I don't see traffic like this in suburban Connecticut. I'll tell you that much.
Do people live in suburban Connecticut? If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there, did it make a noise? I don't know. BC, yeah, I'll say, I don't think it's probably traffic. I think it's he's living the superstar lifestyle. I guess.
Axl Rose used to take his time before Guns N' Roses.
So I saw. It's funny you mentioned that. I saw them here not quite DC, in Silver Spring. I saw them at the Fillmore when Buckethead was playing with them.
Oh, the best.
And he was 2 hours late. He was 2 hours late for the show.
I saw them in Philly in 2002 when Axl never got on the plane from LA to go to Philly, and we didn't find that out until the concert started.
How about this? How about this one, BC? So for folks who are from this area, they'll know this. I saw Rage Against the Machine and Stone Temple Pilots at the HF Festival this was 2001. So this was at FedEx Field when it was brand new. Right now it's not. And Scott Weiland came out. Rest in peace, Scott Weiland came out after 2 hours in a rain delay and was like, we would have started earlier, but I couldn't find my boots. And I was like, just play without them.
Yeah.
How about that? Just play without them.
We found our boots. He was on the dais just a few minutes ago. Soon, though, Tank Davis and Hector Luis Garcia will be behind us and will be answering questions as we head into this fight. But, Luke, that loaded pay-per-view main card, which goes down 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night, show.com/PPV. As Luke mentioned, you can order right now. But what's the start time when we take the controls come Saturday for Showtime pay-per-view countdown?
I believe 6:45 p.m.
That'll be on the Showtime Sports YouTube channel. You're going to get a trio of fights. Two of the fighters were on this stage with us just a few minutes ago when Vito Melnicki Jr., just the 20-year-old rising prospect, and 23-year-old power puncher Brandon Lee. Look, if you followed much of Brandon Lee's journey, because we got into it a little bit with him, was that bright, new, young prospect with athleticism and big power.
He's been in the Showtime family for a while. He was a Showbox fighter, correct?
Absolutely. And but the first step of meeting real opposition and adversity, I think, came on that Spence Ugas pay-per-view card a year ago in Dallas. And I was able to be on the call of that step-up fight opportunity for him against Zachary Ochoa, where the power didn't end up breaking through. He had to lean more on his abilities to box and show us and go rounds and kind of come to a new level. His most recent fight, though, for Brandon Lee, that was the one where he survived a hellacious knockdown and was really, I don't want to say lucky, had to really show some true brass and had to show recuperative skills to get the decision in the end. You hear him talk about the test. We talked to him in the fighters meeting earlier. That test, when you get knocked down, you get up and you win the fight, but people are chirping on social media. Is this now a prospect that's a bust because of one bad moment, which wasn't a loss, by the way? How do you feel like he's taking that, having talked to him today?
Good. Well, I feel like, the good news is he got the win in the end. So the thing that would have really disrupted him or mentally shaken him, that didn't happen. He was able to overcome. But the reality is, I think his coach and father made him drill the defense to that issue. You know, they made him really kind of punch it through, so to speak. So I do think that in the end, he got the best of both worlds. He got tested and shown he could be resilient, but he got a reminder that, hello, these are tougher and tougher guys. Each time you get in here, if you are slacking, they're going to make you pay for it, even if you're overall better. One or two mistakes in that ring can really cost you everything.
Absolutely.
So I think he got a wake-up call, but I also believe that he is going to be steeled by the experience, not hurt by it.
Yeah, and look, this is, I like to see how he bounces back again come Saturday night and also in the future. But for such a young fighter, man, it could, some guys don't come back from that. And we're saying, well, it's not even a loss. It's just a tough test. Impressed by the way he recovered, impressed by the way that he got back here. But I think what he has learned is that at this level, you got to raise your game, round out your game. And I think here's a guy with big-time power and athleticism who sometimes maybe relied on that to get victories. Now, at this level, it's got to be a complete game. So looking forward to him to showcase that come Saturday.
So let me update the audience. I don't know if you can see him behind us or not. I am told Tank Davis is not really in the building, but in the room. So we are probably, and I'm going to guess here, we are probably minutes away from starting.
Héctor Luis Garcia right between us, sitting down on the dais, taking his spot. The unbeaten Dominican fighter, 31 years old, but that started late as a pro because of that huge amateur background. But we talked about it. Boy, is he getting his name known now.
And we didn't bring this up before, and I'll say this too. I was there for the 6 weeks ago, or roughly 6 weeks ago, when they had the press conference announced for this fight. I saw their face-off. It was an amicable face-off, nothing too crazy. Garcia did not look like the guy who was coming up a weight class.
Yeah.
It looked like Davis was the guy coming up a weight class. Now, obviously,
it's because of the height, and this is something Davis has to...
okay, the height played a role, but pay attention to his frame.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like this is the wrong frame, for 135 generally, and more specifically for Tank Davis. Skills will play the difference, but I don't think the size is going to be that determinative a factor. Do you?
No, I don't either. I think ultimately it's going to come down to skill, although when you hear Tank's team talk about it, they know it's a challenge skill for skill early. They do believe if this fight can turn into more of an actual fight late and the punches are traded, can Garcia hang on this level of firepower? I think that's the key technical, stylistic question that we're asking ourselves entering in here. Garcia's been able to do that against a very high level of competition up to this point. Now you raise the stakes to sort of a pound-for-pound level guy who also has incredible fight-changing power, who's also one division higher. That's the obstacle up against Garcia, because can you be that same hurricane strength force of pressure that I think got under the will of Chris Colbert, wore him down, messed with his confidence, eventually wore down his stamina as clean shots one after another seemed to take the fight out of him. If you cannot do that same dissection to somebody with the makeup of Gervonta Tank Davis, does that mean, what is Garcia's fight or flight instincts in that moment? If he finds himself down early, let's say if he gets hurt early or dropped, does he come back off the canvas as a boxer, or does he come back off the canvas as a fighter? The good news is Héctor Luis Garcia can employ both methods and also can employ them together, but it's going to be interesting in that fight or flight debate, which happens when a fighter gets caught or gets hurt early. Which way are you going to go to try to salvage it? I think against Tank, who's the favorite, who's the bigger puncher, that's a key question, whether it's going to come through shots to the body or Tank uncorking that left hand. But Garcia's got that will it's going to say, look, if he can make this closer and harder than even Tank expects, does Héctor Luis Garcia have the skills to pull off a decision here? Yes, he does. Yes, he does, in fact.
The one thing we also haven't discussed is the scope of the fight itself, right? Like, it was one thing to beat Chris Colbert on Showtime Championship Boxing. That's a big deal. Here he is in the main event on pay-per-view against one of boxing's biggest stars. Not merely biggest rising star, but biggest stars overall. The crowd will not be in his favor. It will be a very gigantic crowd. They will be cheering his downfall, quite literally. They will be literally cheering his downfall. What does he do against that environment? On the one hand, BC, you can imagine a scenario where that really gets to you. On the other, I think a guy like Garcia, in this case, is desperate for these opportunities to be on stages like
absolutely.
This, whether they're booing him or not. I'm not saying it won't have some kind of effect on him, nervous or otherwise, but I do believe in general he relishes the opportunity to elevate his career to this kind of status.
We cover mixed martial arts on the same level we do boxing on our show Morning Combat. And I always ask this in the mixed martial arts side to fighters, especially fighters who have lost, let's say, big fights and are now trying to come back and rebuild. And maybe when you compare the two, we hold losses in boxing sometimes a little bit more against a young fighter on the rise than we do in MMA. But in MMA, it seems like any fighter who has their wrestling background goes, what are you talking about? I've been on the amateur wrestling scene collegiately, whatever, for years. I've taken multiple losses in the same day and still come back and win. This is how I'm wired. Somebody like Héctor Luis García, with that deep of an amateur background, with the Olympic experience, you end up fighting elite talent all around the globe on enemy territory. This is nothing. This is absolutely nothing for him. The power of Gervonta could be something that's different for him.
Right.
But the stage, the pressure, I don't believe this is anything for Hector Garcia.
Yeah, we're going to have to find out on Saturday. Again, Showtime.com/PPV for the pay-per-view. And, of course, if you want to get tickets, Capital One Arena, you can go to the box office. You can get them there or many other places as well. So we are going to be back after this version of the press conference. Of course, we already saw the undercard. This is now going to be the main event. Tank Davis, Héctor Luis García. Stick around for them, and then we'll have some analysis afterwards. With that in mind, let's go to the dais and Showtime's own Brian Custer.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Washington, D.C. Welcome back to those who are here this afternoon. This is the official press conference for Davis versus Garcia on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm Brian Custer. I'm the host of Showtime Championship Boxing. Saturday, January 7th, Showtime pay-per-view. Gervonta Davis back here in his hometown area of the DMV. 6 years ago was the last time we did a fight here. This is the city, Gervonta may remember, where Tank began his professional career. February 2013, when he became a pro, right here in the nation's capital. Well, on Saturday, January 7th, Tank will take on Hector Garcia at the Capital One Arena. In fact, that venue, the first boxing show there held, was televised by Showtime Championship Boxing back in 1999. Last time we saw Gervonta Davis in the ring, last May. That's when one of the sport's pound-for-pound best stopped his nemesis, Rolly Romero, with just one punch. But on Saturday, he's got his hands full. He's taking on the Ring Magazine's #2 fighter at 130 pounds. He is the newly crowned WBA junior lightweight champion. He's unbeaten, just like Gervonta. Hector Garcia. Garcia had that breakthrough performance on Showtime Championship Boxing in February, when he beat Chris Colbert. Did it on short notice, by the way. Dropped him in that fight. And then, in August, he took away Roger Gutierrez's world title in a dominating performance. This event is being brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions. It's being promoted by GTD Promotions, TGB Promotions, also in association with D&D Boxing. Tickets for this, they're limited. If you want to get them, you better get them now. Get them fast. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. You can also get them at CapitalOneArena.com as well. This event and this pay-per-view fight features one of the sport's pound-for-pound best against the sport's hottest fighter right now. And it should be one heck of a fight. Let me bring up a man who helped make it happen. He's the president, GM of Showtime Sports, Steven Espinoza.
Thank you, Brian. Gervonta Tank Davis versus Hector Luis Garcia. It's the first big boxing event of 2023, the first of many high-stakes, high-quality matchups that we're working on in Showtime. You know, Tank is assuming a huge risk, facing a dangerous fighter like Hector Luis Garcia. Garcia is one of the hottest fighters in boxing, strong candidate for 2022 Fighter of the Year. Beat Chris Colbert, highly touted prospect, on short notice. Then he won his world title by beating Roger Gutierrez. He's a 5'9" natural southpaw, 16-0, 10 KOs, 400 amateur fights, power in both hands. He's a former Olympian from the Dominican Republic. Say what you will, but this is a formidable opponent for anyone, including Tank. All of us at Showtime are thrilled to be back here in the nation's capital. This is the 10th time we've been in DC, and as Brian said, it's the first time we've been here since 2016 at the Armory. And I remember that particular date for several reasons, but it also happened to be the first time that I saw Tank in person. He was on the off-TV undercard on an Adrian Broner card at the Armory, and his promoter came up to me and said, "You should make sure you get here early to see this young kid I'm working on." And that was Gervonta Davis. So a lot of parallels, in this return, not just because Tank is from Baltimore, a short drive up the road. Last time Showtime was in the big arena here was Mike Tyson's last fight of his career against Kevin McBride. And at that point, it was not the Capital One Center, it was the MCI Center. This will be the 13th time Tank has appeared on Showtime, the 5th time on a pay-per-view. And by now, we all know what to expect. Every time Tank fights, it is must-see TV. He sold out arenas in LA, Atlanta, Baltimore, and Brooklyn. This last fight in May, the highest grossing and most attended combat sports event in Barclays Center history, nearly 19,000 people. In fact, over his last 6 fights, he's averaging nearly 15,000 people per event. And if you look across boxing and see the number of fighters who are doing that, you can count them on one hand. So we're in for an exciting, high-action, highly contested main event. But as usual, Showtime is delivering fight fans a high-quality card top to bottom. We have Jaron Ennis, one of boxing's most dynamic fighters. He's fighting for an interim title, the interim IBF title, fighting to become the mandatory, get his shot at a championship fight. Now, there's lots of stats you can say about Boots, but the one that's most impressive to me, if you take away his no contest against Chris Van Heerden, which was the result of a headbutt, Boots is on a 19-fight KO streak, 19 straight stoppages. In fact, in his last 11 fights, he has 21 knockdowns. So like Tank, when Boots fights, you know what to expect, and it's all action. But that's not it. Also on the card, rising contender Rashidi Ellis, taking on a Showbox alum in Roy Monvilla. You got Demetrius Andrade making his debut in a new division at 168. So rarely have you seen the kinds of names and the kinds of fights that you have all on one card, and that's not it. We can go down further on the card. Lamont Peterson, Anthony Peterson, Brandon Lee, Vito Melnicki, Jalil Hackett. From the established veterans to some of the best young prospects in the sport. It's an exciting night. Make sure you get there early and see all of these great fighters in action. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Stephen. Of course, the pay-per-view broadcast begins at 9 p.m. Again, Eastern, that is 6 o'clock Pacific time. Make sure you buy it. Don't want to be late. All right, let's talk to some of the guys, the participants here, taking place in the main event. First, we'd just like for you guys to give us a statement about the fight, what we should expect. Let me start over here. And this man here is the trainer of Héctor Luis Garcia. He's probably had the Midas touch. If you look at his year, led Hector to a world title. Alberto Puello as well. I mean, the man has done it all, it seems like, last year, and looking to start the new year off with a bang as well. Mr. Bob Santos.
Well, thank you.
You know, we're expecting a tremendous fight. You know, I've said it, I'll say it again. I think Gervonta, pound for pound, is one of the best fighters in the sport, one of the most dynamic punchers in the sport. But that said, you know, Hector's ready. We're prepared. We left no stone unturned. Just like Tank can fight on 3 levels, we can fight on 3 levels too. It's going to be an all-time classic. You know, I look back to the fight with I had Robert Guerrero fighting Andre Berto, and everybody said Berto's too big of a puncher. You know, he knocked out Freddie Hernandez, that Ares Landalara that I had went the distance with a junior middleweight, and so we're going to be very prepared for this fight, and I'm expecting a tremendous fight, and we're confident we're going to come out victorious January 7th.
Thank you, Bob. Let's hear from the trainer of Gervonta Davis. I've always said what he and Kenny Ellis do at that Upton Center there in Baltimore is tremendous work. Mr. Calvin Ford, if you would, give us a few words.
How y'all doing? Hey, question, Santos. Do he got that shirt on, Fight of the Year?
Well, we're not sure. I don't know. I didn't look at him today in the bathroom. I don't know. I have no idea. He got a jacket on.
Okay, tell him I like that shirt.
We love it. We love it. We're thankful for it.
All right. Oh, man, I can't wait till the 7th get here. It's been a rocky camp, y'all. But guess what? He made for this one. Y'all got the right cat this time. Y'all got the right cat. Y'all been reading it. This ain't no tune-up right here. This a fight. This is what we made for. This is what we do. This is how we get down. Hector, I like your name. You got a fight name. Bring that Hector to the fight that night, yeah? Because guess what? It's on and popping. You know what I'm saying? We understand when we in D.C., the only way you go away is through D.C. He understands what's going on. That's our playground right here. We couldn't go nowhere unless we came through D.C. Y'all see the card is lit. And we're going to finish it up lit. Man, I can't wait. All this stuff been happening. Y'all been pouring gasoline on my youngin'. Guess what? Buckle up your shoes, caboose in the house. Put your seatbelt on, because Gervonta Tank Davis is going to bring that heat that night.
Thank you, Calvin. Let's hear from the fighters now. Héctor Luis Garcia, unbeaten, 16-0-1, 10 knockouts, an Olympian, and currently the WBA Junior Lightweight Champion of the World. Hector, if you would, give the folks some words on how camp was for this fight and what should they expect January 7th when you step in the ring with Gervonta Davis.
Héctor, bueno, contanos cómo fue tu campamento de entrenamiento y además lo que crees que la gente debería esperar cuando te vea subir al ring el sábado 7 de enero.
Primero, quiero darle gracias a Dios por la oportunidad, SHOWTIME PPV. Mi campamento fue un campamento incansable, gracias a mi equipo de trabajo. Todo salió bien, perfecto, como estamos listos para el próximo 7 de enero.
First of all, I want to thank everyone involved with this fight. This wouldn't have been possible without you. And my camp, it couldn't have been better. My team is tireless. We worked so hard, and you're going to see the results on Saturday night because they're going to be phenomenal.
And now, Gervonta Davis, 3-division weight champion, knockout percentage at 93%, one of the highest in boxing. Unbeaten as well, 27-0. 17 of his last 18 fights have ended in a stoppage. Tank, if you would, talk to the people about this fight on January 7th.
First, I want to thank Showtime, Al Heyman, my personal team. got Mia Edders for definitely getting me through this camp. She trained with me day in, day out. The undercard, a stat card, I feel as though Saturday night, the boxing win, you know what I mean? It's a stat card from the first fight to my fight, you know what I mean? So I feel as though we trained hard for in training camp. We did a lot been going on. I want to go over a little situation that he said on Facebook. Talk about he looked like a lawyer and we look like inmates or something. He said on Facebook. So it definitely turned me up. So Saturday night, you definitely don't want to miss this one. This one's gonna be a tough fight on his end. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make sure that. So make sure y'all come early and don't get no popcorn, don't get no water, don't get nothing. Make sure y'all seat, y'all butt glued to the seat and eyes on the ring. I promise you, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be fireworks. So thank y'all for coming out and see y'all Saturday night.
All right, let's talk about the fight. Tank, I'll start with you because you alluded to this. With everything whirling around you outside of the ring, how were you able to focus on this fight?
This is my job. I've been doing this since I was, 7. I feel as though it come with it. You know what I mean? If I stop now, then I feel as though that I ain't really do what I came to do just yet. So I feel as though if I keep pushing, that's just a hump in my road. So just like this fight, I feel as though I got to get through this fight to pass or go to the next one. So I feel as though it's just humps in the road that we all have in life, and I'm just human. You know what I mean? So.
And what do you think your feelings about fighting back here in the DMV, so close to home, where your career professionally started? I would assume you kind of have a little more juice when you're back here.
DC always been an excitement when it comes to boxing. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of talent in DC that people sleep on. I feel as though DC is a boxing town and got so much talent, and I'm excited to come back and fight in DC. You know what I mean? Like my coach said, we used to have to get through DC just to go away. You know what I mean? So I always, you know what I mean, treated DC like a second home. I remember back in the day it was saying like a rival against DC and Baltimore, but I never really got that because I had a lot of friends like Pat, Ramo. I had a lot of guys that I actually like used to come to DC and just chill with. You know what I mean? So I always felt like DC was a second home for me. So just coming back and fighting in DC it means a lot on a professional level. So I'm excited to be back. You know what I mean? I seen Lamont Peterson when he beat Amir Khan, and I was right there, and I actually held his belt after he won. You know what I mean? And that was actually the IBF belt, and I won that, my first world title. So I'm excited to be back in DC, and I'm grateful. And Saturday night,
Hector, says a lot about you. Taking a challenge, stepping up in weight, taking on a guy who has tremendous power. Tell the people why you took this challenge.
Bueno, es algo muy elogiable sobre vos que hayas optado por subir de categoría, el aceptar este desafío contra un campeón del calibre y la potencia de Gervonta Davis. Contar un poco a la gente las razones por las cuales aceptaste este desafío y por qué lo hiciste.
Bueno, sí, acepté este desafío porque me gustan los grandes retos. Para mí las dos divisiones son iguales, la cual me siento bien, me siento en óptimas condiciones en la 135 y enfrentando a Gervonta esta vez, eso me da más fuerza todavía, más ganas, más deseo de superación, de ganar mi pelea el próximo 7 de enero.
Well, both divisions are basically the same to me. I feel equally comfortable in both. And I took this challenge because I always want to surpass my own limits and go after the very best. So in the end, it's up to me to show what I can do on Saturday night. But when it comes to having to face what I have to face at the weight I have to face, I'll be ready no matter what.
I think people love watching you fight, Hector, is because obviously you got the punching power and your style. Do you believe your power will be enough to keep Tank off of you on Saturday?
Tu estilo de pelea ha sido elogiado tanto en el pasado como actualmente. ¿Crees que tu potencia, el poder de tus puños va a ser suficiente para mantener a Gervonta Davis alejado de vos y evitar que haya tanto daño físico?
Sí, claro. Yo soy un peleador que peleo toda la distancia y confío en mi puño.
The bottom line for me is that I can fight at whatever distance the fight requires me to. Up close, with my reach, using my power, whatever is required. I'm going to be ready.
Bob Santos, you were quoted in the boxing scene as saying, you give Hector a full 8-week camp and folks are going to be surprised of the outcome when it comes to him fighting Tank Davis.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Like I said, I got the utmost confidence in Hector. That's why we took a fight with Chris Colbert with 19 days, right? Everybody told us, oh, you're crazy. I said, I know what I'm looking at in the gym. Everybody talks about, this guy's a killer, this guy in sparring. You don't survive in my gym with Carlos Adames and guys like that. So we've been in there with big guys too, and we will be ready to rock and rumble however it wants to go, inside, outside, back foot, forward, whatever it takes. January 7th, we're going to be victorious in this fight.
Calvin Ford, you said this fight, we putting everybody on notice. What do you mean by that?
Everybody gonna get it. Todd, he don't never get his props. And he did the same thing as the rest of them, or more. Y'all heard the last night, it's never enough. I'm sorry, Hector, you have to be the one. I'm sorry, man.
Hey, Calvin, don't say he don't never get his props. I give him his props. I give Tank all the props in the world. Pound for pound, he's one of the best fighters in the world. For me, I give him his props. Pound for pound, he's one of the best in the world, no doubt about it.
But everybody else, man, we know it.
Well, they don't know what they're looking at then. I mean, Ray Charles could see how talented Tank is. So, we know what we're looking at. We know what we're up against. And again, pound for pound, he's one of the best fighters in the world. And anybody can't see that. Wow, I don't know what they're looking at.
Read what we've been reading. See what we've been seeing. Everybody put their hands up saying the kid ain't getting his props like he's supposed to be getting. The best way to show him is to show him. I'm sorry to say it. See you on the 7th, money.
Tank, let me come to you. Because you got a Ryan Garcia fight scheduled for April. Why in the heck would you take another fight against a guy of this caliber before that supposed to be fight in April?
I feel as though he earned his spot. You know what I mean? Hector definitely earned his spot off of what he done in a few months that, you know what I mean, he been in fighting. So I feel as though that he beat a top prospect. I think he came back and, you know what I mean, had a great performance and won a belt. So I think he earned his spot. You know what I mean? I feel as though he's not someone to sleep on. I feel as though that he's a tough opponent, and this will prepare me for, you know what I mean, the Ryan fight. So hopefully we don't get too banged up in this fight, so we can put it on Ryan. But we definitely ain't looking past this guy. I feel as though he's tough. He's tough, and I just want to go out there and put on a great performance in front of a nice crowd and show him that I'm actually one of the top guys.
Yeah, and you said this fight, too, is all about quieting all the talking from these fighters. You expound on that? What fighters and what have they been saying about you?
Just been a lot of talk, you know what I mean? Been a lot of talk from our fighters and whatnot, so just want to put them on notice with this fight, even with the Ryan fight, you know what I mean? I can't get the Ryan till I get past Hector, and I want to show that I'm one of them elite guys, you know what I mean, by the performance I put on Hector, you know what I mean?
I love, Hector, that you and Tank have certainly had a nice little back and forth. If I'm not mistaken, I think Tank had a picture of you on his punching bag and he was beating it up. And you went on social media and had a picture of Tank with the sign that said free ass whoopings. So talk to us about what we should expect on Saturday night then, considering what you put on social media.
Bueno, acá a Brian le encanta el ida y vuelta que han tenido entre vos y Gervonta. Muy divertido en el sentido de que Gervonta tenía tu cara en una de las bolsas de su gimnasio. Vos le respondiste con una foto propia de Gervonta en tu bolsa en el que decía te voy a patear el trasero gratis. Entonces, contanos un poco de todo este ida y vuelta y tus sensaciones sobre lo que ha sido el ingrediente picante de esta pelea.
Sí, cada peleador es diferente y hay que respetar las decisiones de cada peleador. Cuando sí, todos los fanaticados enviándome cosas de esa actuación de Gervonta Davis en su gimnasio. Ya vi que anteriormente lo había hecho con Rolly y eso es algo normal, ¿me entiendes? Eso quizás es un entretenimiento para él, una motivación, pero eso es como así mismo, es muy emocionante porque me emociono, lo disfruto, eso me gusta.
I thoroughly enjoy the back and forth. It's something that thrills me and motivates me. I think it motivates Gervonta too. And it's all like, I think it's normal. It's in good fun and it brings a different ingredient to the fight. So I didn't take any offense to what he did and I did what I did and I had people sending me memes and stuff like that. So it's all part of the fight and I think both he and I were motivated by it.
All right, let's wrap it up with this. Hector? Do you get a sense that maybe Gervonta is focused on the wrong Garcia? And what should he expect Saturday night at the Capital One Arena?
¿Crees que Gervonta está enfocado en el García equivocado? ¿Y qué crees que la gente debería esperar de tu parte y de la pelea en sí el sábado por la noche? Un vaticinio, una predicción que tenga sobre cómo va a terminar la pelea.
Bueno, mi predicción es no está equivocado. Porque el real García soy yo, el verdadero García soy yo. Y por eso estoy aquí ante Gervonta Davis. Y sé que va a ser una pelea muy emocionante, porque Gervonta para mí es un gran peleador. Y yo estaré listo para como él venga, ready.
The real Garcia is right here. I'm the real Garcia. I don't care who he's focused on because I know I'm the true challenge. And Saturday night, fans are going to see a thrilling fight. They're not going to want to miss it. And it's going to be a show that everyone will enjoy.
Bob?
Well, you know, when they're talking about Ryan Garcia, the reality of it is, in this sport, it's what's earned inside the ring. We have here next to me a man who's an Olympian. We have here next to me a man who won a title eliminator. We have here next to me a man who won a world championship. We have here next to me a man who was in, you know, the upset of the year and was victorious. And we have here who's a man by everybody, Sports Illustrated, Boxers Writers Association, Ring Magazine, a Fighter of the Year candidate. The aforementioned Ryan Garcia has done none of the five. He may end up doing something at some point, but as of today, you earn things inside the ring. That's why I have the utmost respect for Gervonta Davis. When they talk about some of these other champions, and I look to, mutual opponents, Gamboa, I look at a Devin Haney, he went the distance with him. This man stopped him. Pitbull Cruz, I know very well. Me and Hector know him very well. He said this fight's a 50-50 fight, that there's a reason for it. He's a very, very tough guy. So things are earned inside the ring. And that's what's going to happen January 7th.
Tank, I'll give you the final word here. For everybody who's going to buy your fight, pay their good money, come out to the arena, what can you guarantee that they're going to get when you get into the ring with Héctor Luis García?
First, I want to say I want to send my prayer and love out to one of the Bill players that hurt themselves actually playing the sport on the field. You know what I mean? Damar Hamlin. Wish him a speedy recovery. Hope he make it, back to his family and friends, and guys be able to play again with his brothers on the field. So I want to send my prayers to him and his family. As far as the last word I want to say to Hector, just be ready. Be ready. I feel as though this camp been great. Little hiccups, but we got through it, and I know that Hector somewhat ready or coming. Just don't make a lot of mistakes, because if you make too many, it might be an early night.
There you have it. And it all goes down on Showtime pay-per-view. Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. That is 6 o'clock Pacific time. Again, tickets are limited. You can get them at Ticketmaster.com, CapitalOneArena.com as well. Gervonta Davis, unbeaten. Héctor Luis García, unbeaten. Two world champions collide here in the nation's capital on Saturday. Gentlemen, let's get a face-off if we could.
Face-off.
Cameras in the back, guys. Hector, camera in the back. Camera all the way in the back.
This is going to be a good fight. It's going to be a good fight.
All right, guys. You're in the first row, please. Hector and Gervonta in the first row, please. Calvin and Bob, you guys want to come around and get in? Bob, come around that way. Calvin, right here. You guys all look in the first row, guys?
D1. D1.
All right, there you have it. You see Gervonta Davis with his trainer, Calvin Ford, Héctor Luis García with his trainer, Bob Santos, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell here with you at the Davis versus Garcia press conference from Washington, D.C. Brian Campbell, an interesting reaction from the two. A little pushing and shoving, but seems like some respect as well. Your reaction.
I like how both fighters presented themselves at this press conference after rightfully a long wait to see them get up there to hear what they have to say. So first, let's talk about the camp with Héctor Luis García and trainer Bob Santos. First of all, let's give Bob Santos a credit. As big of a year as Héctor Luis García had as a breakout fighter, he had the same as a coach. But what he said is, look, we're the right Garcia. Forget about Ryan. Look at what we've accomplished. Look at what we bring to the table. A reminder to all of us at the task at hand. But how about this? Not just back there, but really at every turn this week. When Héctor Luis García speaks, when Bob Santos speaks, they're saying two things. If this turns into a fight, if we have to match firepower for firepower with Tank Davis, we're more than willing to do that. And number two, trainers saying, we guarantee this will be the fight of the year. So from the standpoint of Héctor Luis García brings two different styles into the game. He can box, he's got the amateur background. He also can walk you down, wear you down, and volume punch to get you out of there. If it turns in the direction of a two-way fight at close range, they're willing to walk through that hell to get what they have to do to get another upset big win on the rise of this 31-year-old Dominican fighter. And on the flip side, Luke, we talked about the potential distractions for Gervonta. How can he put everything outside of the ring on pause to be able to focus on this? You almost saw him go the extra mile and say, I've been using all this as fuel. And we're certainly not here, to sort of overlook some of the things that he's been entangled in. But if he can do exactly that, meaning Tank Davis, take all the distractions, all the negativity that he has received, whether good or bad, whether warranted or not, and funnel that into his work and the performance he expects to bring out there, this very much could go in the direction that trainer Bob Santos believes that it might, which is at some point this is going to turn into more of a fight than a boxing match. And you certainly have to like your chances if you're Gervonta Tank Davis with one of the highest knockout percentages among active champions in the game today at 92%. But they've got an opponent across from him who is ready for that smoke. And as much as we use that great cliche, the name of another Showtime digital platform here, they're ready for a fight. That's what I take away from hearing them talk ahead of this one.
Speaking of which, if you want more of this dynamic duo, probably don't, but if you do, we have a show, called Morning Combat. We are live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, live 11 a.m. in the East. In fact, we'll be here in this exact room on this exact dais tomorrow at 11 a.m. to get you ready for the Combat Sports Weekend. Some special guests. Now, if you are interested in the Davis and the Garcia fight, if you want to buy it on pay-per-view, showtime.com/PPV, that's the place you got to go. And you just heard Brian Custer say, Ticketmaster.com for tickets. If you are here in the Washington, D.C. area, you can go to the box office for the Capital One Arena, 7th and G, 7th and F, depending on where you want to go. BC, Showtime Sports President Steven Espinosa spoke to you just a moment ago. What did he tell you?
That when we look ahead to the arena for Saturday night, 16,000 tickets sold. I believe the capacity can go as high as 20,000 for boxing.
I think it's just a little bit less, actually.
So as Brian Custer mentioned, tickets flying off fast if you have plans to do it and be here in D.C. on Saturday night, not just for Tank Davis versus Hector Garcia. You've got Boots Ennis, you've got Demetrius Andrade, you've got Speedy Rashidi Ellis, who we had there, and so many others. You're going to have to get them now. This is filled up fast. People come out to see Tank because he delivers. Can he deliver, though, this time around against such a hungry, experienced opponent who has no fear? You saw the little push-off. I'm glad because of the, like you mentioned, maybe the lack of security up there on the dais, that it didn't escalate into any more, and it turned out to hugs and hand pounds in the end. But Garcia not backing down, and that's a key part of it. You don't get to Ryan Garcia until you fully handle your business first against Hector Garcia. Only, again, not somebody you're going to pass over, not somebody you're going to step on to get through the way. You're going to have to earn it. Hector Garcia ready to go to that place against Gervonta Davis. Fight of the year potential here, Luke, according to the combatants. We'll see what happens Saturday night.
We shall see indeed. That is it for us here today. Join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern for the weigh-ins for Tank Davis versus Héctor Luis Garcia. We'll be right back, I believe, here in this room. We'll have a couple special guests with us on the stage. It'll be a grand time. That's Brian Campbell. I'm Luke Thomas. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for the weigh-ins, and until then, enjoy the fights.
We are charged to protect these kids.
Go. I'm a police officer for North Minneapolis and coach for the North High School. Go. These kids don't trust cops.
It's definitely a difficult time right now.
Kind of weird, but I'm building bonds with police.
The violence is nonstop. You can hear the gunshots. When them lights flicker at 7 o'clock, you ain't hearing none of that.
Man, that card, that's an old school card right there. That card lit.
Welcome to our nation's capital. We are here in Washington, D.C.
Nothing but high ratio knockout hitters.
Demetrius Boo-Boo Andrade. What are you looking to demonstrate on Saturday?
A beatdown. Perform and let people know it's me again. I'm here.
Demanda Nicholson.
My confidence is through the roof. It's my time.
Rashidi Ellis.
Back in the ring, back in the groove. He's a tough fighter, but that don't mean nothing to me.
Roy Manavilla.
I believe that I can be a world champion, and I'm ready for anything that comes my way.
Sharon Boots Ennis.
I can't wait to shine and put on a beautiful show. Get this knockout.
Karen Chukasian.
I will bring this title to Ukraine.
The undefeated world champion, Gervonta Tank Davis.
Walk in like a boss where my money at.
Either stepping stone to what I want to do.
We're going to be ready.
Héctor Luis García.
I'm going to give my blood, sweat, and tears until the very last minute of the very last round. I can guarantee you that.
100 rack.
Gotta wait and see, man. Gotta wait and see.